Blank check with Griffin and David. Blank check with Griffin and David. Don't know what to say or to expect. All you need to know is that the name of the show is Blank Check.
A vigilante is just a man lost in the scramble for his own gratification. He can be destroyed or locked up. But if you make yourself more than just a man, if you devote yourself to an ideal, if they can't stop you, then you become something else entirely.
Which is
a podcast, Mr. Wayne.
Great impression.
Thank you. That's the best I've ever done, Neeson.
You landed the plane.
Hello, everybody. My name's Griffin Newman.
I'm David Sims.
We are hashtag the two friends.
Taking a little yawn there, a little stretch.
No, I was
preparing
preparing myself to land the plane.
Oh.
We're hashtag the two friends. That's our competitive advantage. We're two friends who host a podcast. There's no other podcast like that.
It's never happened before.
And will never happen again.
No, of course not.
In the immortal words of Miss Piggy, never before, never again.
We copyrighted it. Friends aren't allowed to host podcasts now.
Never before. This podcast is called Blank Check with Griffin and David.
Hello.
Hi. You know us. We just introduced ourselves.
Taking a sip of water.
This is a podcast where we look at filmographies, overanalyze them. Directors who had massive success early on in their career and then were issued a series of blank checks to make whatever wild and crazy films they wanted. Sometimes those checks clear. Sometimes they bounce, Mr. Wayne.
You got me. Neeson.
We're on a podcast mini-series about the films of Christopher Nolan that is called the Pod Nightcast.
Yes.
And today we finally got to the point where we, as your humble hosts,
yes,
get to introduce you to the Pod Knight himself.
Batman?
Batman.
The well-known man of capes.
Yes, his name is Batman.
The cape person.
His name is Batman, and he's about to begin.
You seen that Louis C.K. bit about the Batman? I just think about that now.
Which bit's that?
It's like where he's talking about there was a bat loose in like an upstate New York house, and he like called the police, and the person was like, "Oh, I can put you in touch with this person who's good with bats." And Louis C.K.'s like halfway through realizes like this person's trying not to say Batman. Anyway,
Mike Lawrence has the great Batman bit that's like the kind of joke that everyone's made, but he like crystallized it the best.
Yeah,
about Batman being like the ultimate Republican hero.
He is.
Where he runs down all of his villains, and he's like a burn victim who's unwilling to let go of the loose change he has. A crazy cat lady, the theatrical magician who wears makeup. It's just every sort of like Republican nightmare.
We'll talk about it. People thought these movies were right wing. You know, that was a thread that carried through. Yeah, well,
and I especially rewatching this movie through that prism, have somewhat of a counter argument. But this is where it all begins, where the Batman begins. The year is 2002. Christopher Nolan's hot off of insomnia.
He's cold off of insomnia. It's chilly.
That's and he's
a cold
tired.
Movie. Brr.
It's cold in here. There must be some Nolan in the atmosphere. Terrible. Let's start over. Ben, delete the entire podcast.
Yeah, the podcast is gone. Gone. Ben's here.
It never existed. Oh, producer Ben's here, a.k.a. Ben Deucer, a.k.a. producer Ben, a.k.a. the Poet Laureate, a.k.a. the Haas, a.k.a. Mr. Positive, a.k.a. Birthday Benny, a.k.a. the Tiebreaker, a.k.a. the Meat Lover, a.k.a. the Fart Detective, a.k.a. the Peeper. He's not Professor Crispy. He is the Fuckmaster. If you see him on the streets, wish him a hello, Fennel. And of course, he's graduated certain titles over the course of different miniseries, such as producer Ben Kenobi, Kylo, Ben, Say Bennything, Ben Night Shyamalan, Ben Sate, and Warhas. Oh, also Ailey Benz with the $.
Oh,
now we're done.
Yeah.
Almost missed
Can't
it.
forget
Almost
that.
missed it.
Hey guys, I'm here too. Excited to talk about this movie.
Yeah, he's got a take or two.
Yeah. Oh, I got some hot takes. This is where Batman starts.
I want to say that his notepaper is headed with Batman starts, I mean beginning, underlined. We got Griffin.
Hold on, let me just check that off. Great.
Okay, so Batman.
So we're just. Oh boy, come on! All right. Throttle down.
Oh,
it's
Ben.
okay.
Okay.
We're gonna be okay.
Batman Begins.
It's 2002.
he goes in for a meeting at Warner Brothers.
Batman?
Batman.
Batman himself, the Cape Crusader?
Yeah. And I as Mr. Wally Pfister, who I worked with on The Tick, premiering August 25th on Prime Video, told me, because this was a little different than how I heard the story told in the press, they were really happy with Insomnia. They were like, this is clearly kind of a major filmmaker we're dealing with here. And they had a meeting with him where they said, like, here are some of the hot things we have. Are you interested in any of these?
Mm-hmm.
And they weren't even really pushing Batman on him. They weren't thinking him for Batman. And he kind of started stewing. He started going like, wait a second, what about that Batman guy? Of course, the Batman film franchise had gotten off to a humongous start with Tim Burton's film in 1989. Then parents and general audiences flip out in a negative way at Batman Returns, which is a secret masterpiece.
Not even so secret anymore, right? But
right. But it was a controversial movie. It made significantly less than the first one. They axe him out. They bring in Joel Schumacher. They go, make it more like a comic book.
Sure, but I think he also had the pitch of like, hey, like Batman is a kitsch hero, like
Fun.
Adam West.
Right,
Like,
let's
Like,
kind of
why don't
bridge
we
the
tap
gap.
into that?
Right, and he combines that with his experience as a man who used to be a window dresser for department stores.
Hey, I love Joel Schumacher. Look.
I'm not saying that in a negative way, but that is very much the aesthetic of that movie. The aesthetic of that movie is Barney's department store window.
For sure. Look, have you read the oral history in the Hollywood Reporter about Batman
Yes.
Forever? It's awesome. And the production designer talking about his vision of Gotham City is awesome. And the most interesting thing about it is Joel Schumacher saying that when the movie came out and like everyone called him being like, it's a hit. He was like, you're kidding me. Like, they were like, we're going to make another one. Like, and he was like, no one wanted to make another one. Like, no one was prepared for it to be a hit.
It had the
Batman
biggest
Forever.
opening weekend of all time.
It was now, it
At that
was
point.
actually, because in my head, Batman Forever was a bigger hit, the biggest Batman yet, but it wasn't. It just was a bigger hit than Batman Returns. It wasn't as
Correct.
big a phenomenon.
And
as
it
Batman.
opened
Batman,
huge.
the Burton movie was like a phenomenon beyond any other.
Right. I mean, it was the original modern blockbuster. People talk about Star Wars and Jaws, but Batman set the template that I think we're still going off of today.
Yeah.
In terms of just general saturation.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And like an aggressive advertising campaign that is focused on iconography.
Right.
Not like a trailer where it's like, he comes at night, the
Yeah.
Batman. Like, you know, like it's just like.
There will never
Less is
be
more.
a better advertising campaign than the original Batman because it was like the one film where they had a piece of iconography that was so simple and so iconic and so well known. They could just make the poster the bat symbol with a date and you didn't have to say fucking anything else.
They
Well,
also
it said-
they got Seal on board.
That's Batman Forever.
Yeah, Seal's on
Oh.
Batman Forever, but they got R. Kelly for Batman and Robin.
And they got Prince obviously did an entire album, wrote an entire
All right,
album
Look,
about the
one
Batman.
day we're gonna do my Batman series blank check. Don't
Don't make it sound like it's your series. I love Batman.
No, it was my pitch.
Yeah.
My pitch to you.
Yeah.
To you.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, Batman and Robin, flop.
Flop. They give him a real blank check. They go, we love what you did in the last one. Do more of that. And
I
the
think-
check bounces.
I think they give him, but I also think there was a lot of pressure to include a lot of toys.
Toyetic
He
was the
talks
term
about the
that
toys
came out of that
a
movie.
lot,
Was they said we need more toyetic sequences? Can he,
A
there
bat
be,
bomb.
right?
You know who they
Can
gave a
he
blank
ice
check?
skate? Who?
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah,
You know how much he made?
25,
$25 million. You know how many days he was on set?
17.
Like less than 25.
Yeah.
He made more than $1 million per day of work.
Someone I talked to who worked on that movie said anytime he's not in close up, it's not him.
Yeah.
Anytime in that movie,
Right. It's just like a distant shot or whatever. Right.
right?
Yeah.
It's a double. He only did the close ups.
Uh-huh.
Or any like a moving shot where you have to see him in the suit, you know, where the camera slowly tracks into his face or whatever. But that's not the film we're talking about. That's the movie where Batman bounced and they went,
Batman.
They went, ooh,
Not only did Batman bounce, like the superhero
genre.
movies kind of bounce for a little bit, where studios were kind of like, I guess we can't just rely on these being critic proof. Like,
correct.
You know, maybe we should give them to real people.
And Batman and Robin was also one of the first films where the studios blamed the internet.
Yeah, sure. Like the nerds had their revenge.
Yes,
but not like in the movie Revenge of the Nerds.
Booger was nowhere to be seen this time. This time it was Harry Knowles.
Yeah, exactly. The nerds have been like, no, this is not our Batman. You messed it up.
But there was an Ain't It Cool review that came out early from a test screening and said, like, this movie is fucking toxic.
It's a bad movie.
It's a bad movie.
Did you see it in theaters? You were little.
I loved it.
I saw it in theaters, and you were probably like 7 or 8 years old.
I would have been 9.
I think I was 11 or 12.
Yeah, right. That's a key difference.
And I remember, but it was one of the first movies I saw in a theater where I walked out and I was like, I'm not sure that I liked that. Like, I was 11. Usually when I saw a movie, I was like, great. Like, I had fun.
That was the first Batman movie I had seen in theaters. So I was just so into, like, the fucking grandeur of it and everything. You had butts and nipples and ice and flowers.
It's got it all.
That was the tagline for the movie.
Butts, nipples, ice, and flowers.
It's got it all.
Anyway, we can talk about the sort of Disco Sucks-esque imagery. I'm sorry, the Disco Sucks-esque, like,
response?
Dismissal of Batman and Robin that maybe gets a little too. But anyway, the point is, you got 3 years later, you got Bryan Singer doing X-Men.
Right.
I feel like that's the turnaround where studios are
100%.
like, maybe these should be a little smaller. They don't need to have movie stars in them, like, you know, an Arnold Schwarzenegger or whatever. And we can give them to, like, up-and-coming serious
And
directors.
maybe you engage with them a little more intellectually.
Yes.
You know?
Because I remember reading an interview with Bryan Singer, like, where he had just made Apt Pupil, and his agent was like, they want you to do X-Men. And he said, like, what? I don't do that shit. Like, comic books? That's lame. Like, I don't do that.
Right.
Because it was such a, like, poisonous idea that, you know, like, for hacks that you would make a superhero movie, and then he got talked into it.
And it was Richard Donner and Lauren Schuler Donner were producers. They had the X-Men property.
A young man named Kevin Feige.
I was going to say Kevin Feige was the Donners.
He was like their junior assistant
executive,
producer,
and that was when he was on set. Had never read a comic book before in his life. Did the research.
Like, I'm into this,
and then dug in.
But at the same time, Warner Brothers says Batman.
And so for years,
can
there
I
was
run
this
through
thing.
some of their?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah,
they kept on saying like, okay, we're trying to develop like 3 Batman projects. There has to be a way to bring Batman back, and they kept on throwing stuff at the wall.
Let me give you some ideas. So first, Schumacher after Batman and Robin, they still are like, do you want to make a 5th one? Because it's before I think it flops, but after it had been in the can.
Yeah.
Because he delivers the movie on time. It's not like the production was torture.
And they were like, can't miss. Doesn't matter if it's bad.
Exactly.
I don't know. Whatever.
And like, it still made like $100 million, which was bad, but like, it's not like it was like a total bomb. It just didn't do well.
It just had a lower opening than expected and a lower total than expected.
Bad word of mouth. So Schumacher was like, hey, why don't we make like a dark Batman?
Batman
like,
Triumphant, I believe was his title.
No. It's often been known as that, but the real title I am reading, I did a lot of research because was Batman Unchained.
Okay, that fucking sucks.
It's a bad title. He wanted Nicolas Cage to play the Scarecrow.
Correct.
And he wanted it to, be a little more of like a darker Batman.
The other thing I've heard is that he wanted Madonna to play Harley Quinn.
Yes.
Who at the time was going to be rewritten to be the Joker's daughter.
Yes. And there would be like flashbacks to the Joker, and they wanted to get Nicholson back, which seems like a stretch.
They were going to pay Nicholson like $2 million to
like
be
do
in
one
hallucination sequences for when the Scarecrow shoots his gas out.
Yeah.
But he said he wanted to be more of a Frank Miller.
They were going to get Clooney back as Batman, Chris O'Donnell as Robin, Alicia Silverstone as Batgirl. Because you remember Batman and Robin ends with them all running out in front of the bat signal. Like, it's like, finally, the 3 heroes.
I believe the tagline for that movie is family forever.
I think that's one. Yeah, like, right. Yeah.
It's like, justice for now.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
it was like, it was the end of a long series of taglines.
Family forever. Yeah.
So then they're like, Batman and Robin does bad. They're like, forget it. And so Schumacher's like, what if we do Batman Year One, the Frank Miller comic? Like, we reboot it. And they were like, maybe, but not you. So Joel Schumacher's gone.
And I don't think it ever went far, but there was briefly internally the notion of, what if we did Dark Knight Returns with Clint Eastwood?
That I've never heard of. That
I think that was like a spitballed kind of. There was never any traction.
Everything I've read is they had 2 projects in development spinning up at the same time. They had Batman Year One
and Batman
and then
Beyond.
Batman Beyond, which was the cartoon that was like set in the future with like an old Batman.
Right, but either way, they were like hard reboot. We either need to go right back to the beginning, or we need to do a new Batman in the future.
And they were getting these going, and they were kind of just thinking like, whichever looks better, we'll greenlight.
Boaz Yatkin of Remember the Titans was supposed to do Batman Beyond.
Oh God.
Good pull, right?
Yeah, that's great. Well done.
And then Aronofsky was the one who was on Batman Year One for a while. He was co-writing it with Frank Miller, but the script was very different than Frank Miller's Batman Year One comic.
Yeah.
He was totally conceptualizing the material. And
they had Christian Bale in mind as a possible Batman.
Which is really funny.
It was, makes some sense. I mean, he was an obvious choice in
right.
like a lot of ways. He was the right age. He was a respected actor. He was weird. You know.
But like Bruce Wayne wasn't a billionaire. Alfred was like an auto mechanic.
Yeah.
They lived in a garage.
God.
The Batman was like an Oldsmobile. The Batmobile was an Oldsmobile.
Two other things I want to mention.
Yeah.
Apart from this project. Also, Lee Shapiro, who is a Hollywood screenwriter, pitched them a movie called Batman Dark Knight, where the K is capitalized, so it's like Dark K Night, like it's like one word. Griffin's just like closing his eyes in frustration. He pitched this where it was like Batman's retired. Dick Grayson works at Gotham University, and it was like a Scarecrow movie, like set at Arkham Asylum, and like Man-Bat was going to be involved. So like, and Warner Brothers was thinking about this. They had like a lot of ideas.
It is interesting that everything kept on coming back to Scarecrow.
Well, I think it was like they had done all of the other major villains, and Scarecrow like just kind of made sense, and especially for a quote-unquote darker Batman.
And also, he does have a pretty cinematic attack.
Yes.
Because it's like, you could do these dream sequences, nightmares, hallucinations. Sorry, I just got gassed there by Scarecrow.
Fine.
But there's like 5 years where they can't get anything off the ground.
I've got more to tell you. There's much good shit.
Please.
So Aronofsky has his year one script.
Right.
They don't like it. Guess who rewrites it for them? The Wachowskis.
Oh!
They don't like that script either. Guess who rewrites it after that?
Cameron Crowe.
Joss Whedon. What? They don't like that either. So then they can year one. They're like, fuck it. They start moving forward on Batman versus Superman. Remember that?
Oh, right.
Directed by Wolfgang Peterson.
Which was going to be called World's
Das
Finest.
Boot and
And it was
Air Force One.
What's his name? Andrew Kevin Walker, the Seven guy, was writing the script.
Oh, Jesus.
And it was Jude Law and Colin Farrell were going to play Superman and Batman respectively in a movie in which the Joker murders Lois Lane.
Oh, for fuck's sake. It just sounds so bad.
And then through some chain of events, that leads to Batman and Superman having to fight each other. And that was going to be a real like Alien versus Predator fight movie where like the last 40 minutes are all fight rather than the movie we got where they fight for 2 minutes and then talk about their moms.
Martha. And then they talk about like maybe turning this into Superman Flyby, which was this other idea that anyway.
But
so
that
there was a lot
came really close to getting made.
It was like a serious thing.
And then Superman
Wolfgang
Flyby
Peterson
came by
was
even
going to make it
closer. Right. Yeah.
Then 2003 I don't even know like why it all gets swept aside, except maybe it's just a lot of bullshit. None of it really connects, but they say to Christopher Nolan, like, do you want to make Batman?
Well, but what I'm saying is,
he pitched them. I know that.
Apparently they said, here's the slate of stuff we have. Here's stuff that you could have.
Sure.
And they weren't even really pushing Batman on him. And he said, I think I have a take on Batman.
Right. And he was working with David S. Goyer, who writes these movies with him, and who I guess was sort of his comic book guy, like would give him the books.
Because Nolan admittedly was not a big comic book guy.
And so, Goyer would be like, read The Long Halloween. Like, here's some Batman for you, baby.
Right. But he said, take it back. I found a really interesting, actually. You keep talking for a second. I'm going to pull this.
Goyer becomes the guy because he's worked on
Blade.
Some of the Snyder movies. He had already worked on Blade. But I feel like he becomes the guy who everyone blames Goyer for every bad comic book movie.
Yeah.
And gives him no credit for the good ones. And that might be the correct take. I don't really know.
Look,
but he's, he wrote Batman Begins and he wrote The Dark Knight, the story.
Script. Yeah.
And he wrote Man of Steel and he wrote Batman versus Superman. So,
Where does Catwoman fit into the picture here?
Well, they had done her, with Michelle Pfeiffer in Batman Returns.
Right.
And I think Catwoman and the Joker, they were just scared because they felt like, two iconic, performances, pretty recent. Let's not try to do those again. Now, of course, studios are like, what? That was like 4 years ago. Let's just do it again. Like,
but Tim
Burton, a little more respect, for like, hey, that was recent.
Tim Burton for a while was trying to direct a Catwoman spinoff with Pfeiffer.
Sure, yes.
Oh, cool.
Then that fell by the wayside, and then there was a series of, do we do it with Ashley Judd? Like, whoever the hot, kind of steely female star of the moment was, they try to regurgitate that script. And then in 2003, fresh off the Oscar win, Halle Berry signs on, and they start over a new script with an art director named Pete Toff, and that movie comes out the year before this, which is really weird to think about.
Catastrophe.
Catastrophe.
It's
yeah.
And of
bad,
course, it's
like a
more in
bad,
the
bad
old model of like, these movies don't have to be connected. Just do a
anything.
Catwoman movie.
And also, it doesn't have to be based
know.
on any existing material. Like,
No,
it was
yeah,
just
fuck, she's a Catwoman.
Right.
I mean, Catwoman is like, I mean, that's a classic bad movie. The costume's bad. It's set in like a CGI city. Like, the whole thing's a goddamn disaster. Have you know,
Yes,
she
bad
plays
movie.
basketball with Benjamin Bratt and
the conflict of that movie is that I mean, Sharon Stone's the
it's
villain
about like plastic
who
surgery.
run a cosmetics
Yeah.
company, and her cosmetics line gives her like claw-proof skin, where now Catwoman can't hurt her.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's so sexist. I don't know, like, to have the villain be like a beauty cream mogul.
Yeah.
And have Catwoman's costume be like a bra and shredded pants. I mean, it was all bad. I don't know. Like, I don't know who's
Is
going to...
bad, would not watch again.
I paid $2 to see it in theaters. I remember that, in the Adirondacks.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So Nolan and what are you looking up? He's been on his phone for
I'm
10
trying to
minutes.
find this dumb
So
fucking
Nolan
thing.
and Goyer pitch a darker, realistic, rebooted Batman.
Yeah.
And obviously you hear those words now and you're like, oh boy. But in 2005, you know, in this sort of like new and still kind of exciting comic book movie world, that was like, oh, cool. Like, maybe a different take on Batman's what we want.
And
like,
also, someone like Nolan making a superhero movie
Oh,
felt
wow,
really
crazy.
weird. Right.
which is, to be fair, not dissimilar from Burton getting hired in 1980s, the late 80s, where it was like, this guy, oh, huh. But still, it was, we wanted it.
I found the thing I was looking for, and this was kind of his real take. There was a Dark Knight Blu-ray set after the third one came out, and Nolan wrote this forward talking about, like, in retrospect, how crazy it is that he was given
It's true.
the reins to this.
And as we talked about last week on the Insomnia episode, like, now it's not crazy at all. Obviously, now, you know, you make a $5 million indie and like you get your comic book movie.
But at that
then
moment, it was
like,
very
oh wow,
and it was a
I wake
weird match of aesthetics, especially
Yes.
coming straight off of Burton and Schumacher, who were different filmmakers, but were both very theatrical. Were both very stylized and heightened dramatically.
Yeah.
To have Nolan, who is so kind of sparse and cold. His quote is, "In retrospect, it can only have been my absolute confidence that a return to the old school 70s blockbusters that I grew up with would be the key to bringing Batman back. I thought my references were original, but it now seems obvious that 10 years ago, every studio had been hoping that every temple they made would take the audience back to the great early days of Spielberg, Lucas, and Bond. Few movies had pushed that particular button, and I believe that changes to the craft of filmmaking were to blame."
Right.
And that was kind of a big key to his take, because a lot of people have been saying, Batman Year One, take it back to the beginning.
Yeah.
But he said, what if we really do this kind of old school, classical, kind of tangible, grounded, not just in terms of the story, but in terms of the actual aesthetics of the film, the technique of the film, you know?
Right.
Make it kind of real. And they say yes. And he gets to work on this movie. And
he hires Bale, who is long been sort of rumored as like the obvious Batman choice.
Well, and what I was going to say, which is kind of interesting, you know, they were learning from the mistakes of Batman and Robin, where the internet and the geek Eladorati turned against them so hard.
Mm-hmm.
They leaked out the short list of candidates they had for Batman, and that went out to Ain't It Cool, and they monitored who in the comments fans were into.
Sure.
So the list was like Josh Hartnett
came close, and some people have said he turned it down. I've heard that. I don't know.
He definitely turned down Superman.
Yeah.
Henry
weird.
Cavill was weirdly on that list.
Henry Cavill was on like every list. He was on every James Bond list.
10,
and then
15
he
years.
finally gets Superman.
Guy Pearce and Christian Bale. And everyone goes, Bale's the guy, and they go with Bale.
Right, because Bale had been an American Psycho, and everyone was like, he's got the darkness.
And had been a child
necessary.
actor, but wasn't really a big movie star at that point in time.
No. But American Psycho, right? That was his calling card.
And
for
Equilibrium, I remember people being like, oh, this feels like a Batman type character.
Equilibrium is like almost as much as the Boondock Saints, one of those movies in college where people would be like, what a cool movie. You've got to watch it. I watched it. I was like, this is a god-awful movie. Equilibrium is a lot better than the Boondock Saints, to be clear.
Correct.
That's only because the Boondock Saints is the worst film ever made. Equilibrium's like kind of cute but bad. Like the gun fu thing's kind of cute. The rest of it's basically like 1984 in a blender or whatever. You know, it's sort of like whatever.
But so they're off to the races, and this movie comes out. It opens well.
We'll get to that.
Closes well.
Yeah, it's not a huge hit, but it's a good hit.
It's a good hit, you know, especially when they thought that franchise was kind of like back on its heels.
Definitely.
You know, now
Like,
it was like on firm ground.
When it
again.
came out, it was not thought of as like a surefire 2005 summer hit.
No. And it's weird to think about in retrospect that like Wedding Crashers outperformed Batman Begins.
Yeah, man.
You know, like within that same summer. But it was a solid hit. It got good reviews and people were kind of back on board. And it was this big turning point of like, oh, but what if superhero serious?
Yeah, because remember, the same year Fantastic Four comes out.
Right.
And that's your old model.
Yes.
Now, obviously, again, X-Men had come out, X-Men 2 had come out, Spider-Man had come out. Like, I'm not saying like Batman invented some new version of like making a superhero movie, but definitely, come on, you know.
There are a lot of big shifts here. And it's weird watching this movie now when so much of blockbuster culture in the last 10 plus years has cribbed from it. But, you know, I mean, the Daniel Craig Bond movies were reconceived very much in the mold of
for sure. 100%.
Batman Begins.
Yes.
And then you have a lot of aborted attempts like McGee's Terminator Salvation is definitely trying to do a Christopher Nolan version of Terminator.
Yep. Unfortunately, it's directed by McGee.
Yeah, that was the problem.
An issue.
McGee had
Bale's
idea.
in it for crying out loud.
Yes, except for the fact that he was making it.
Yeah, what don't you fucking understand? He, I believe, was the line. Remember that, Ben?
He yelled at that guy.
He remembers.
I'll say this: I was talking about that with like some of the camera guys on Tick about that like Bale flip out thing, and they were like, "Yeah, but that DP is notorious for that." And I was like, "Really?" And they were like, "He still does it to this day." Like in the middle of a take, he'll like walk in and like adjust a light right in an actor's face.
I remember when that happened. A lot of the reporting was like, you know, we get it. We get why he'd be mad. It's just the clip is just so insane. Anyway.
Yes, and also in retrospect, you could tell like he was angry that he was in that fucking movie.
Probably. But anyway.
Okay, so this movie comes out June of 2005.
June 15th, 2005.
It was my last day of high school that year. Whatever that would have been, I think sophomore, junior year.
Junior, probably. Well, maybe sophomore. I was in college.
I think it was
I was a summer intern at the Boston Phoenix, living in Boston.
Hey.
But no, I think I was in London the first time I saw it. I saw it again in Boston. I can't remember. Anyway, carry on.
It was my last day of school. There's the grad party everyone's going to, and I was like, fuck that. I'm going to see Batman.
Bartman Begins.
Yeah. I was a loser.
Yeah.
And I went with my friends who were not my friends from school because all of them wanted to go to the grad party. And we saw the IMAX midnight showing of Batman Begins.
That's cool. Because back when you had to go at midnight, not 7 p.m.
None of that bullshit.
Jesus.
I had to stay up
just had to turn
past
my levels down.
bedtime. We got some Cold Stone beforehand.
Oh, God.
Whatever we did. I don't know. But we saw Batman Begins.
Bartman Begins.
And I remember it was not a sure thing. I had heard people who said, like, this is kind of cool. I had heard rumblings like this movie's a fucking mess.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, and so I was sitting there.
I was hype. I was a big...
I was really hype.
You didn't know Nolan, though. This is your first Nolan
This was my
movie.
first Nolan.
Whereas I was obsessed with Memento, and I'd liked Inside... Like, I was all in on this movie.
But I was very hyped because I was really into the approach, and I loved Batman.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Batman.
Bartman.
Bartman. But I was worried. I was cautiously optimistic.
Yeah,
I wanted this movie to work.
fine. Jesus Christ. He was worried. He was optimistic.
And I sit there opening night, and just immediately I'm like, fucking yeah, I'm on board. This is the Batman movie I always wanted to see.
When does it get you?
Like almost immediately.
Does it come in black?
No, I feel like when he was in the prison, the Himalayas, fighting the guys, I was just like, yeah, this is like the approach to this character I want. And I don't know if this has ever happened in front of you, but I have a problem with chronic nosebleeds.
I don't think it's ever happened in front of me.
Not as bad as it used to be, but I will randomly get horrible nosebleeds at certain times.
I remember you got one back when we were doing Talking TCGS.
Yeah, Talking TCGS.
Yeah.
About 45 minutes into this movie, my nose starts bleeding.
That's bad.
And I'm cupping my hands underneath my nose, trying to like pull the blood and collect it and stop it from getting on my shirt. And my friends turn to me and they go like, is everything okay? And I was like, my nose is bleeding. And they were like, shouldn't you go to the bathroom and take care of it? And I was like, I'm not doing it until he fucking says I'm Batman.
You had to wait another 20 minutes.
I know. And
I counted exactly when it happened.
The second he says I'm Batman, I ran into the bathroom at the Lincoln Square IMAX theater, covered in blood, my hands like I had just committed murder.
This is visceral.
Right, and I go to the sink and I'm trying to wash blood off my hands. I'm the only one in the bathroom other than a guy dressed up like the Joker. And this guy,
it was midnight. It was the midnight shoot. Yeah,
and not Ledger Joker, but like fucking like Caesar Romero Joker. And he looks at me and goes like, "Hey, are you okay, man?" And I was like, "Yeah, just nosebleeds." And then I ran back into the theater.
Nerd.
Yep.
I'm Batman.
And then I'm Blood Man.
Yes, you Blood Boy. Let's be clear.
Blood Boy.
Batman Begins. Yeah, no, I think I saw it in London before I went to Boston. I was a summer intern, though, that summer, like July and August. And I was working at the Boston Phoenix, but my job as an intern was mostly like nothing, you know?
Yeah.
I like had to like assemble daily clips or I don't know what I did.
Doing a big load of nothing.
So I would almost every day go across the street to the AMC Fenway, which was literally across the street, and see a movie for lunch. And I remember like on my like last week there, I came back and it was the first time my boss had been like wanting to talk to me. He was like, "Hey, where is he?" Like, and I got away with this totally. Yeah. So I saw it like 2 more times there. I just would go see it. Yeah. It's so good.
It's so good.
But it was especially exciting then. We like the Batman movie. All right, guys, look. What can I tell you? It's a fucking good movie. I know it's, like hacky to think of it now, but
I'll say this, like more so than any other movie I think we've ever covered on this show. Watching this, rewatching it last night, and I've seen this movie a ton of times, right?
Yeah.
But rewatching it last night, I was like, I actually cannot extricate this movie from my nostalgia for it and my memories of it and sort of what it represented at the time. It's very hard for me to view this movie objectively because we are similarly like nerdy, overly obsessive guys. We love pop psychology and all that shit. Yeah. And to see this character be taken with that kind of level of like thought and detail.
Swear to me.
Yeah, it was just like, I just remember like pumping my fist.
Like a cop?
When I walked out this movie, I was like, I've been fucking vindicated, you know?
All right.
It felt like a personal victory.
This is the problem with these movies.
Exactly.
Right.
That's what I want to talk about.
These fucking idiots are like, like I'm in charge now.
Right. Right.
I'm the captain now.
Right. Everyone became Barkat Abdi after seeing this movie.
Damn right.
And I also think it created this bad dynamic with nerd culture where it's like, I want you to take my thing seriously so I don't feel like a baby for liking something meant for children.
Exactly. And it becomes, something that's become incredibly toxic, which is that idea of like, the very idea of making these movies for a wide audience or for children is like antithetical to these people.
Right.
Like, how could you? Like, it has to be dark. I guess it's like the extreme version now is just those like crazy DC Universe bros who are like, Zack Snyder's a genius because he's so twisted.
That was a really good voice.
Swear to me. What else does he say in this movie? Because his voice in this is perfect. Nice coat. Yeah. Whereas in The Dark Knight, which we'll get to, he's done something. Like, I remember I would watch the Pete Holmes Badman, the like spoofs of it, and I'd be like, he's like spoofing it. And then you watch and like, no, he's just doing the voice that he does in The Dark Knight.
I remember reading some early review of this
movie.
movie.
Wearing hockey pads.
Yeah.
Then it becomes this strength.
I remember reading this early review of the movie on like Probably Ain't It Cool or whatever.
Right.
Someone's like, it's really good. Heads up. When he's in the Batman costume, he kind of talks like Alec Baldwin. Like, no one had known that, and Batman didn't have any dialogue in the trailers, in the costume, I feel like.
Right. Well, he probably very little. I can't remember.
The marketing was, like, very elusive and minimalist, too. You really didn't have a sense of what the movie was.
I remember, like, one of the key bits in the marketing was that line where the Scarecrow goes, like, the Batman. Like, he's coming, the Batman.
And they used a lot of Ken Watanabe's Ra's al Ghul monologue.
Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
Gotham must be destroyed.
Yes.
And it was just like, the whole thing is going to be Ra's al Ghul trying to burn Gotham to the ground.
Sure.
Ken Watanabe fist-fighting Batman.
Right. Well, yeah, they used a lot of the early part of the movie.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But yeah, then it becomes this thing where like Batman is one property where you can dig into it on a psychological level.
Sure.
And the fact that they tried to just break it down and go like, okay, the goal of this movie is figure out what would actually need to happen for this guy to make these decisions.
Right.
You know, get into the micro and really build it piece by piece.
Right, because we just had Batman and Robin where he doesn't talk he just talks in normal George Clooney voice. He has a Bat credit card.
Yeah.
He's like invited to parties and everyone's like, "Oh, Batman's here." Like the, you know, sanitation commissioner's here. Like he's just like a member of Gotham High Society.
And people talk about the dark.
I love those movies. They're so insane.
People talk about like the dark and gritty thing, but it's like this movie is pretty like austere looking. Like it's pretty glossy.
Yes.
And it's dark in that it's shadowy and it's not a toyetic movie. It's like the least toyetic movie ever made.
Well, right, because I remember during the production when they revealed the Batmobile,
Yeah.
and it's like the opposite of like a cool car.
Right.
It's like this weird blocky tank thing.
Right.
And everyone was like, huh. Oh, yeah.
And the villains are kind of just wearing suits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Scarecrow's just a guy in a suit who puts a bag on his head.
Right, but like the term realism kept on being thrown around incorrectly, and I feel like the bigger thing...
It is gritty because it's about like a city that is like overtaken by crime, I guess. It's like a street level movie. I don't know.
I think the bigger thing was Nolan trying to apply a level of logic to this type of movie that wasn't usually there.
Yes.
Character logic, story logic, these kinds of things, and then people misinterpreted that as like, oh, the whole thing is to be self-serious.
Why so... No, but also the funny thing is
Richard T. Joker's not in yet. He doesn't enter yet.
Well, he's mentioned at the end there. But no, yes, he's not. But this movie is though more comic booky and a little more pulpy and silly than The Dark Knight,
which I love. And here I'm going to get this right out of the way.
Go ahead.
I personally prefer Batman Begins to Dark Knight. Don't at me, bro. I'm not going to argue it's a better movie. It comes down to personal preference. I like the fact that this movie is more comic booky. I think it gives it more latitude.
I think they're both good. I think I like The Dark Knight more because I just don't think we'll ever see a movie like that again. That movie's crazy. I like this movie a lot. I've seen it a bunch of times because I saw it in theaters a million times, and then I just had it on DVD and would watch it in college over and over again.
Yeah. Well, the other thing I like about this movie, and this just gets down to my personal preference, is I like that this movie is really about Batman.
Right. This is a Batman movie, whereas The Dark Knight is less of a Batman movie.
And almost every Batman movie that's ever been made is more about the villain than it is about Batman.
I'm like running through them in my head. Yes.
You know?
100%.
But this is the one that really is about Batman and Bruce Wayne as a character.
Yeah.
I find Batman to be a very interesting character, especially in all his contradictions.
It's especially true. Like I'm just thinking about like when you think about the four, Burton universe movies, whatever you want to call them, they have like lots of scenes of the villains.
Yes,
the villains have like parallel A plots.
Right.
Whereas in this, obviously, you have a couple scenes with the Scarecrow on his own, but like not so much, like very little.
And Richard T. Joker does in Dark Knight, and Michael K. Bain does in The Dark Knight Rises,
for sure.
But in this film, it really is like it's all about
No, go ahead. It's all about Batman's
Christopher J. Batman.
Oh, please. But of course the sequels are going to do that anyway because like you've done the work on the legwork on Batman.
But my personal preference, I like a movie that's burrowing into Batman's head and trying to explain piece by piece. And this movie does such a fucking good job of that. So let's just get straight into it.
Swear to me.
I swear this movie does a good job.
That's my favorite scene in the movie with Mark Boone Jr. I love that he gets Mark Boone Jr. back in. What a job he does.
Okay, so the movie starts with bats
flying around, and they make like a bat logo, and then they just disperse,
fly away.
Which again, like think about the Schumacher movies. Start with these like incredibly long title sequences with the score, where like each actor's name like swoops in, and then like it's like.
And in Batman and Robin, the Warner Brothers logo gets frozen.
Right. Well, in Batman Forever, it like turns into a bat. In Batman and Robin, it gets frozen. Oh my God. And like, I really love those movies. We've got to talk about them.
I feel like we could do an entire episode that's just on movies that customize the studio logo.
Oh, one of my favorite things.
Because it always feels more important. Like even if the movie's bad, it's like the studio was really betting on this movie.
No, but then I get mad if the movie's bad. And I'm like,
exactly.
You customized your logo for the Mummy? No, I say no.
Did they?
No, they have the Dark Universe logo, which is even worse though, because it's like you have your universe, and then like the universe, the Earth goes black,
turns dark,
and it like reverses, like the universe, the words spin out, the words spin away, and then like from the other side comes in like Dark Universe.
See, I would have liked it if it was the universal globe, and then suddenly bandages start wrapping around.
excellent.
That's the kind of stuff I like.
Yeah. Yeah. You know when we'll know like there's been a real revolution is when someone messes with the Netflix logo.
Yeah.
You know, the ja-doom, like
Yeah.
someone like does something weird to that.
Maybe they'll do that with Bright. They'll make it twisted. It'll start out like Netflix and then it'll come out like Flitnex. Because they twisted it.
Swear to me.
I will. Fuck. So
How dare you?
you told me to swear to
Fair
you.
enough, fair enough. Fair enough.
The film starts out with bats, and then we see young Bruce Wayne,
Yes, who plays young Bruce Wayne? Played
a boy
by,
who is clearly British.
well, this film was mostly shot in
Yes.
London. In London.
And London town.
You sound like you're from London. Gus Lewis is young Bruce Wayne.
He is British, right?
He is an English actor.
He does a good American accent, but you can tell he's putting a little too much. His foot's a little too heavy on the gas with certain American words.
Apart from this, he's in the movie Asylum, but that's it.
Okay.
This movie was mostly shot in London. They built the Batcave in Shepperton Studios. They built a lot of the set, and obviously then the city stuff is Chicago. Chicago. Big Chicago.
No, Little Chicago.
Fuck,
Big
you're
Chicago is Academy Award nominee Michael
No,
Shannon.
sorry. I screwed it up.
He's running away. He's playing a game.
With his the help's daughter,
Rachel Dawes. The gardener's daughter.
Yes.
They're hanging out in the greenhouse. They're chasing each other, and then he walks over an unstable patch of wooden boards and falls into a cavern and is attacked by bats.
Which is a scene that Burton had done.
Yeah.
It's a scene that Schumacher does in Batman Forever, and it's a scene that Zack Snyder does in Batman versus Superman where he's like lifted up by the bats.
Yep.
Remember that?
Yes, I do. Now, the complaint, of course, is do we need to see this again? And I think
No,
this
it's
is
great.
This is the movie where you need to see it again because
it's
this
scary.
movie, and it's also this movie's all about the building blocks. It's all about giving you every little piece. So by the time he wears that suit, you get it all.
Yes. I would say I love this movie, but even in this movie, when he puts on the suit, you still have to make the leap of logic, but I think that's fine.
I think there's a final leap, but they've explained every piece.
They've done a better job of it for sure than just being like, he saw a bat once, so he's Batman. You get it?
Right.
All right, thanks. Which is a 1930s comic book way of doing it, which I'm also fine with. But
Right.
he's doing something different, and
So then immediately cuts to bearded Bruce Wayne in a jail.
yes, in Asia.
Yes.
It's actually supposed to be Bhutan.
Okay.
The small Tibetan, adjacent kingdom, but it's just your bog standard mystical Asian country, right?
Sure. And this was like immediately I was on board with the movie watching it at this point because I was just like, this is such a weird place to introduce us to Bruce Wayne.
Sure.
Like already this movie's throwing you off the hump.
Yeah.
Now, Goyer tries to replicate this exact same script structure for Man of Steel.
Man of Steel. Oh, sure, right.
Where you're cutting back and forth for the
between
first
childhood
hour.
origin. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But the problem with Man of Steel is by picking those two poles, you're missing all the interesting stuff, which is when Clark Kent kind of comes into his power.
Let's not talk about Man of
Not
Steel,
going to.
but I agree with
But
you.
I'm going to say what's brilliant about this movie is the childhood stuff gives you the emotional background.
Yeah.
And then you get the stuff that's leading up to him becoming Batman, and the movie just glosses over the stuff you don't need to see.
Agreed. But also the Superman and Batman arcs are just very different.
Very
you
different.
know?
Right. I'm saying this.
Superman's about like a hero who's being given a mantle. Batman, he has to make the mantle for himself. Right? I
Exactly.
don't know.
So this structure works for Batman because you're seeing everything that happens before he ever becomes Batman. With Superman, to apply that structure to it, you're missing a lot of key steps.
Yes. Also, it's about a man in prison, right, at a low
Yeah.
ebb,
Right.
intentionally low ebb,
Yeah.
who is trying to sort of put together like, how did I get here? What
Right.
do I want to do?
Right.
And it's like part A.
It's like a
I'm
teen
afraid of
tour
bats.
gone wrong. I mean, that's what happened to him.
Right. Part A, I'm afraid of bats.
Yeah.
Part B, I want to be a ninja.
Yeah.
Part C, my parents
Oh
died.
my God, I love this movie. This movie's so goofy.
It is. It's
It's
great.
the best combination of like really like self-serious
Yeah.
logic and just goofiness.
I agree. So he's in prison. He's fighting with prisoners. He's just,
Taking him apart.
because of course in the movie, the movie leans on this heavily. Like Batman fights criminals, right?
Right.
Why would someone be so interested in fighting criminals? Like,
Yes.
And like, isn't the idea like he's in this prison because he enjoys fighting the criminals?
Yes.
I guess.
And the other element I like of it is that, you know, this thing about Batman being this very Republican conservative hero when you really examine his ideals, this is a place where I think this movie deconstructs that and tries to work around that because, like, this is a Bruce Wayne who actively resents his wealth and his privilege.
Sure.
And feels like it disconnects him from the actual troubles of the world.
Okay.
And I think him ending up in this jail is, A, he wants to fight criminals, but B, also it's extrapolation of him just trying to find his place in the world and try to get as far away from his shit as possible.
As Ducard points out, like it is the pulps on common people. He's like, you're not really a criminal because you could just leave. You're rich.
Which is why he becomes Batman, because he realizes this is a lie what he's doing right now.
Sure, right.
There is a way to weaponize his privilege
privilege. Oh boy, here we go.
You know what I'm saying?
So Ducard
use it for
shows up.
good rather than
Liam
try to deny it.
Liam Neeson, who had not yet made Taken.
No.
But this is the beginning of his road to Taken, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Sort of like self-serious gravitas. I'm going to say something controversial. All right. I'm going to say that.
Oh.
I think Liam Neeson's the worst thing about this movie.
Oh my God, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't disagree more. Sorry.
Fair enough. No, that's not to say that he's bad, because I like everything in
I
the
love
movie.
him in this, yeah.
I mean, okay, maybe, I guess Katie Holmes is
I think she's fine.
I think she's
in
fine.
this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think Neeson is great in the first part. When he comes back, I'm kind of like a little sick of him.
I love it. I
He's
love
good.
this performance.
He's good.
So you know who they originally offered the role to?
Guy Pearce.
Ducard?
Yeah. But who else?
Gary Oldman.
Oh, sure.
And Gary Oldman said, I don't want to play the villain. I've done this too many times.
Yes, he
And
will. You're
Nolan
right.
went,
You're right.
What if you play the good guy?
And I mean, what a great choice that was.
Yeah.
The minute you see him, you're like,
I think he's secretly the best performance in this movie.
everyone's good in the movies. But,
I agree, but he's
great.
really fucking good in this one.
Yeah.
Anyway,
he's great in all of them. Well, he's great in the first two.
Yeah. Neeson comes into his jail cell.
Neeson comes in
and just calls his bullshit because you're fucking Bruce Wayne. You gotta come on.
Yeah,
come on.
Yeah, come on.
Flips him a bird.
Says a legend, Mr. Wayne.
Yes. Legend, Mr. Wayne.
Yeah, that's where sometimes I'm like, okay, Liam, all right.
See, I love it. Here's what I like about this performance, and this could be the most controversial thing I've ever said on this show.
That's going to be hard to do, but okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
I like that he's putting too much paprika on the sandwich.
Oh, that is controversial.
I think Neeson knows exactly what he's doing. That he is, in this movie, the bridge between the self-serious ambitions of the movie and the pulpier origins of the material.
That's fine. I'm into that. It's fine. He's good.
I think he's really good.
And
he's got a really, here's the thing with Liam Neeson. He's just got a musicality to his voice, right?
He's got a great voice.
There's a depth of feeling to everything he says, but also a weird rhythm to how he delivers dialogue, which especially when you're doing these long kind of monologues about philosophy, he just kind of makes this shit sing. It's got a rhythm to it.
That's the thing. I agree.
He
makes it great, but you can boogie along to it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're like a little sick of his whole like, we burned Rome.
I was going to say, that's the line. That's the line where if you lose your faith in the performance, it's it.
Yeah,
but
right.
I love that line delivery.
You took
London to the ground.
You took London. Sorry,
Yeah.
you took my advice about theatricality a bit literally.
Yeah,
Like,
see,
okay,
I love it,
buddy.
I love it.
All right. Because I would say what the Dark Knight has going for it is it's got better villains.
Of course.
But this has great villains.
And what I like about the movie is it's not really about the film.
Right, and I think that's a good argument. So
Yeah.
he comes in, he's like, look, you want to be a real ninja, you can come talk to me. I live on the highest mountain in the Himalayas.
Right.
Bring me a blue flower. See you later.
Right. And Bruce Wayne's like, can I just follow you there? And
No.
he's like, no, you need to give me a head start of like 2 weeks.
So he climbs up the mountains. As I was telling Ben off mic, this was shot in, great music. Hans Zimmer and James Newton Howard.
Which is another thing I like about this movie.
Go ahead.
Because Hans Zimmer gets very famous for his Dark Knight score and the Batman themes.
Yes.
But this movie has this dialogue between the two composers where Hans Zimmer is kind of doing the Batman music and James Newton Howard, who I think is a more emotional composer.
He's doing the Bruce
Wayne.
classic orchestral music.
And he's really representing the Bruce Wayne character.
Fucking with it.
He does the emotional stuff.
And then
Hans Zimmer does the action stuff, the scale stuff. And someone tweeted at us, I hope you'll talk about the fact that certain tracks on the Batman Begins score sound like Unbreakable rejects.
They do.
That's because James Newton Howard also did the Unbreakable score, and it's the same kind of
M. Night Shyamalan's guy.
Right.
And then in Dark Knight, Hans Zimmer was like, I'm going to do Joker, you do Batman.
Yeah.
And I love that too because in Dark Knight, it's Hans Zimmer. Hans Zimmer, I just like that he messes with himself every time.
Yeah.
He's good with these scores. Sometimes he can lean on boring shit, but like he wants to fuck with his
Nolan
music.
pushes him, I think, in interesting
For
directions. Okay, so now Trek. And you're getting these gorgeous fucking landscape shots. And this is where that sort of Christopher Nolan, let's go back to the 70s blockbuster aesthetic. It's like this movie has like a fucking veracity to it. Like even if it's about goofy Batman, it's like you're seeing these fucking landscapes and these vistas, and it's just gorgeous details.
I mean, he's very wise to, do a lot of location shooting.
Yeah.
Do real sets.
Yeah.
Lean away from the 90s aesthetic of like these Art Deco kind of like, made up location.
This
it's
is
all
like
real.
$175 million movie, which was huge at the time. Like you had very few
150
movies.
is what I see.
I think it crept up.
Yeah,
I remember hearing it was getting to 170.
Who knows?
But a lot of that is just spent on like we're gonna fucking fly the whole crew out to the mountains.
I think we mentioned on Insomnia, he doesn't do second unit. He does everything himself.
Yeah.
Blessed auteur Chris Nolan, we salute you.
And here's this montage of him like trekking to find these places, and like it would have been so easy to just green screen a couple shots of Christopher Nolan hiking or Christian Bale. You know what I'm saying? No, but you can tell
Christopher
that he's
Nolan plays Batman.
He does. He plays Richard T. Batman. I'm fucking up my own jokes.
You
I'm
are.
so tired today.
Why are you so tired?
Because I'm stressed out.
Just take a little.
No one should make a TV show.
Yeah, Bartman. He goes to ninja camp.
He gets there. And here is Academy Award nominee Ken Watanabe, who's been set up as the chief villain of this new Batman
He
movie.
was announced to be playing Ra's al Ghul.
Which is already a weird choice to make, like, you're rebooting Batman. You're not going with any of the classics. You're going Scarecrow, and Ra's al Ghul is the primary antagonist.
But I really do think that was partly the studio being like, you can't do Joker, you can't do Catwoman because they've been done too recently.
Yeah.
And I really do think it's funny that that's how they thought, because obviously now it's like, what? Do Joker.
This
do
was
him
very
every
much
time.
still that culture where, like, if someone's been done, you can't do it again.
Not for a while.
As opposed to Fox, like, now threatening to make Fantastic Four for the third time.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. It is. Ra's al Ghul is usually like Egyptian. He's Middle Eastern.
Yeah, it's always kind of vague.
Well, when he was he was basically like a Fu Manchu villain back when he was created,
Correct.
and he's been sort of obviously like many a comic book villain, sort of
retcon
toned
to
down.
be
Yes,
slightly woker.
but he's like a mastermind, a criminal mastermind who's the head of the League of Shadows, but also he's like a practitioner of the dark arts.
Right. His big thing is he's got these Lazarus pits where he can constantly bring himself back to life. So he's
Sure.
immortal. And I remember everyone being
He's
like...
the closest to like Lex Luthor that Batman has in his rogues gallery, because he's definitely often like behind the scenes, pulling the strings.
Right. Well, and then the other big element, which we'll get to a
It's
couple
his
episodes
daughter.
from now, his
Yeah.
daughter Talia, who Batman's,
One of his
he
squeezes.
wants to give her the D. He wants to give her the Dark Knight.
I don't want to talk to you anymore.
Tumblr, he barely knows her.
You got me back. All right. Okay. He goes to ninja camp.
Yes.
Ken Watanabe, who was a legend of Japanese cinema, who had just been nominated for The Last Samurai,
Mhm.
which he's great in. A bad movie that he's great in. He's always great.
Yeah, he's a great actor.
Honestly, this is maybe his worst performance in an American film because he doesn't have much to do.
He has very little to do. I mean,
And I love that Nolan really does repay him with his role in Inception, which is my favorite thing about Inception. We can talk about it on the Inception episode.
a favor, a promise between two friends.
We're gonna talk all about it.
Yeah. But he's kind of a MacGuffin. He's a misdirect in this movie. And you have him...
He is, spoiler alert, Liam Neeson's the real Ra's al Ghul.
Right.
I revealed the spoiler.
Unbreakable. You have him... Finger.
Ben just got actively annoyed. Yeah, go ahead. I sit next to Ben now so I can see him mark things on the console. Swear to me!
Fuck!
Do I look like a cop? I love saying it.
So he has Ken Watanabe dressed up in this sort of like, more grounded version of a Ra's al Ghul costume with these red robes.
But it's still ninja camp. Let's be clear.
But he's looking, yes, but that's the point. He's looking a
this
little more
mystical
comical
figure,
villain.
right?
And
sitting in a throne.
Liam Neeson's just wearing a suit, and
yeah,
he's
Liam
kind
Neeson's his
antagonistic mentor character.
his like chief operating officer, where he's like,
Right.
"Welcome to Ninja Camp."
And Ra's al Ghul isn't talking at all. He's just sitting in a throne.
Once in a while, he sort of talks in Japanese for a second,
Right, and then throws his cape over his shoulder and walks away.
See you later.
And Ducard is just like, hey, welcome. Now guess what? I'm going to fucking kick your
kick
ass.
you. Death does not wait for you, or whatever. He yells at him.
Yes. And
then-
he's like, you want to be a Batman? I'll help you.
Right. So this is, Nolan likes, especially in these movies, especially starting with this movie, to like make everything come back later in everything Batman learns at Ninja Camp is referenced one more time, if not two more times.
He's a puzzle filmmaker. Even when he stops making films.
We talked a lot about it with Amy
yeah.
Nicholson, where in the Memento episode, where it's like he loves, and I feel like audiences love to be like, oh, I see the line.
And that's the thing. He makes people feel smart because he doesn't say it. He shows it. He shows it very clearly.
Exactly.
But you give yourself credit for putting the pieces together. So when they're sword fighting on the ice and you see the sword get caught in his gauntlets and you go like, oh, that's why Batman's arms are designed that weird way, because he was like, oh, that's a cool ninja thing.
And then the whole thing with like deception and theatricality.
All of that. And I'm just like jizzing in my seat. As like a 15-year-old, 16-year-old, I was like, this is the best theatricality and deception. And then powerful tools, but then powerful weapons.
More than anything, there's this idea of fear as something that you conquer, and then something that you can use against people to be scary, because like I think it's something that had basically been forgotten probably in all of the Burton movies, maybe a little bit in the first Batman it's there, but like
he just becomes a detective who wears a bat costume for some reason.
That's the thing. It's like the whole point of him dressing up as a bat is to frighten people. Like he's supposed to be this like specter who like, haunts criminals at night. Like the whole idea of Batman is you're afraid to do crime at night because like the Batman will be there.
I think Burton rationalizes it by taking this angle of he's just a guy losing his mind.
And that's great.
Like it's a disassociative thing.
That's a great angle.
He just doesn't know what is going on, and this suit is the only thing that keeps him sane. It's like his security blanket.
For sure.
But then you get to Schumacher and it doesn't mean anything. The costume doesn't mean anything.
That's what I love about Batman and Robin, like I said, where it's like, oh, we're opening the new opera house. Batman, do come by.
Yeah.
We're going to have an auction. Go on a date with Batman or whatever. Like, I mean, it's just the best. I really would love it if there was a scene where Batman's just like talking to like, the planning commissioner about like something boring.
Yeah. Alfred, I'm going to the bodega. Get me my costume. But Master Wayne, you don't need to get me my costume.
Well, I mean, but that's Batman Forever starts with that line where he's like, shall I make a sandwich, sir? And he's like, I'll get drive-through.
Yeah.
It's a great line. That's like the line at the start of the movie.
Yeah. The car. Chicks dig the car. I hate Batman Forever. David likes it.
I like both Batman Forever and Batman and Robin.
I think Batman and Robin is interesting. I think Batman Forever is boring.
When's the last time you watched it? I find that so crazy.
I watched it like 6 months ago and we fought about this.
Oh, you're so crazy. It's so good.
It's a dumb movie for dumb people.
It's real dumb. It's a dumbass movie.
But I think
breaking news.
I think Batman and Robin is at least dumb fun. I think Batman Forever is boring dumb.
I think Batman Forever is more fun. I think Batman and Robin is honestly tough to watch. It's more fun in that kind of like, I can't believe it, like every time way. Like, because the action in Batman and Robin is like it's so bad. Partly because one of the villains is wearing a 140-pound metal suit.
Hey, David, chill out.
And the other one's a lady who can't who just sort of like walks around like this.
Hey, David, fine out. So he's now fully in the Ducard school of being a crazy magician fighter.
It's true. His like graduation exam is like, take some fear drugs and then like we're all gonna get in line and attack you.
It's how well can you hold your shit?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Take this bong hit and then open the chest of pain and fear.
I love the shit with them fighting on the ice, and it does feel like Ducard's becoming this weird father figure for him, even though it's obviously very different than how his father
and then
was.
We should say, of course, you're cutting between these sequences and the flashbacks to Batman's father, Thomas Wayne,
beautifully
played wonderfully by
Linus
Linus Roach. And I was saying to Joanna while we were watching it, like, this is the only movie
that makes him a character.
That makes any effort to make either of his parents a character. This movie doesn't make any effort with his mother,
Martha
unfortunately.
Doesn't talk, but Thomas does.
And it's so funny because, like, in the Burton Batman,
Yeah.
the death of his father is this very like theatrical thing, but that's partly because they're tying the Joker into it, right?
Yeah.
In the Snyder Batman,
Mhm.
the death is like this, I think we talked about it, you know, quasi-pornographic scene
Yeah.
where Jeffrey Dean Morgan's got like a push broom mustache and he like shoots Martha while the pearls are like, you know, it's this like execution murder.
And in 4DX, there's a ripple in the seat every time he gets shot.
And in this movie, I think the murder scene is so well done.
Really upsetting. Genuinely
very
upsetting. It doesn't just
It's a
feel like checking
total
it off
accident.
the list. Yes.
It's just like a bullshit nothing scene, which is what it's kind of supposed. You know, the original idea is just this, you know, this poor criminal Joe Chill looking for some money.
Right. And I love the way that Thomas Wayne is characterized in this movie. I mean, he talks about his father.
The idea is he's this like, it's sort of like he's a benevolent billionaire who's trying to help the city.
He's almost like a Bill Gates figure if Bill Gates was third generation old money.
But you get this idea that, like, you know, even though he means well, it is sort of a half-hearted thing. You know, it's not going to do it all by itself, because you have to believe that Batman thinks like it wasn't enough, right? To just like
he was doing it all from the ivory tower.
Right,
he wasn't getting his hands dirty, and that's what Bruce sees.
Right.
But I think Lance Roche does a really good job playing the most difficult thing, which is just a good, simple person.
Right.
It's very hard to play an unconflicted person.
I agree. No, I think he does a terrific job. Love Linus.
And I love the way the city is visualized. It's obviously based on
coolest
Chicago
Linus?
Here.
Yeah, the city's visualized
Yeah, I
really
mean,
well.
I love Linus Van Pelt, but he's a fucking nerd.
He's a nerd. But that's another challenge is, you know, you already had Anton Furst's iconic Gotham.
This Art Deco expressionist.
Exactly. And then you have like the cartoon does that too, sort of dials that up, and Schumacher's dialing that up. Like, you know, can you do Gotham again? Like,
he's adding more purple.
Yeah. Every building is on the back of a giant statue.
Yeah, right. And they each
holding it up.
They each have their own designated spotlight with a different gel, a different color gel directly in front of that building.
Now that you point it out, it's sort of vaporwave.
It's very
come on, it's 90s as shit. I mean, like, this is one thing I love about Batman Forever. The gangs that, like, are entirely in neon and, like, somehow they all have, like, black lights on them at all times.
Yo, but wait a second. What if Batman vaped?
He will. Mark my words. I mean, Ben Affleck vapes.
There is no question.
When do they finally just decide, like, let's merge them?
Okay, on the record, let's make a bet that Batman vapes in Justice League.
Wait, what are the odds you're saying? Or are we just declaring it's going to happen?
What are the odds? Or declaring it's going to happen. I'm going to declare. I'm going to go Griffey on the record.
I have a question, though.
Yeah.
Is it that it's going to be like branded, like a sponsored thing, or is it going to be the Bat Vape?
I think it's going to be neither. I think it's going to be generic vape technology, but the idea is just, it's a character detail.
Bat Vape?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Anyway, so he learns to be a ninja. He graduates from ninja school. I'm just moving us
There's
along.
the scene I love 5 hours in.
About an hour.
Yeah. There's the scene I love on the ice after they fought.
Kept talking about the ice when he kicks him into
but when he's warming up afterwards and Liam Neeson talks about his classic Christopher Nolan dead wife.
Yeah, he's like, I had a wife once.
My great love.
Yeah.
She was taken from me.
Right.
And you see,
he's explaining how he hates criminals so much.
The flip side of the coin. This is a guy who had his love taken from him in his life. And
he has a very specific set of skills.
Right.
Thank you, man.
Skills that make him a nightmare for Batman like Batman. He is the opposite side of the coin. He is a man who became focused on anger and vengeance.
Uh-huh.
And Batman is trying to prevent these things from happening again.
I agree.
Descartes is trying to make them happen again.
Right, because of course the final test in his graduation is,
here we go.
Here's a thief who murdered someone, some local schmo.
Yeah.
You got to chop his head off. Here's a sword.
He's like, you should experience a trial, a fair trial. And he goes,
right,
from what, corrupt judges, lawyers?
Yeah, he's like, we burned London to the ground.
Yeah, burned London to the ground.
I am 1,000 years old. Liam Neeson's just like, right. Bureaucracy. This is all shit.
Right.
Like, we are the ultimate judges. We know better. So time for you to kill this guy.
Batman
they get in a big fight.
Sets
Batman
it all on
burns
fire.
His ninja hut down.
He burns London to the ground.
He does.
And he leaves Ra's al Ghul for dead.
He does. Oh, he also briefly fights Ken Watanabe. They have like
Very
a
briefly.
30-second sword fight.
Which they used all 30 of those seconds in the trailer
Yes,
to make
they
it
did.
seem like this movie is him fighting Ken
and then
Watanabe.
Ken Watanabe is killed by a falling beam.
Yes.
Oh
Perfectly placed.
no! Watch out for the beam,
get-
immortal crime legend.
You get the one close-up of the blood coming out of the side of his mouth, so
Yeah.
you know he's dead. The movie never has to think about him ever again.
Right.
And and then
Look out, a beam!
he saves Ducard from falling over the
Swear
side
to
of the cliff.
beam!
Fuck you, Beam! He saves Ducard from falling off a cliff,
Yeah.
leaves him passed out.
Yeah, he does him a real solid, burns his house down, kills all his friends, leaves him on the side of a mountain. Thanks, Bruce. Real cool. Then he calls up Alfred, his
Right.
butler, who
And
we've
let's
already
just,
met.
Let's just say the other stuff we've seen up until this point is,
So many nice
he goes
scenes.
back home from college.
No, but we also seen the scene right after his parents are dead when Alfred hugs him.
So did I, Mr. Wayne.
Uh,
So did I.
He's done this great. So Alfred had been played by Michael Goff in
Yeah.
the first 4 movies, where he is a stereotypical English butler guy. I love Michael Goff.
Right, but he was playing very much the archetypal butler character.
Yes.
And then this movie, Christopher Nolan said, what if we hire the greatest screen actor of all time?
Well, I mean, this was part of Batman Begins marketing for sure. Is like Nolan, and like the billing is like all the actors above the title, not like Christian Bale, Batman Begins. And
Right.
then
The credit
he's
block is
assembled
like
a big
8
group.
actors.
Right, because
And-
you got Kane, Neeson, Katie Holmes, Gary Oldman, Morgan
You
Freeman.
got Morgan Freeman being the fucking
Morgan Freeman in the
weapons
8th
guy.
lead. Right,
It's
yeah,
like,
exactly.
That's when I was like, the bench on this movie is so fucking
He
deep.
gets the and.
Yeah.
Freeman, he gets his and.
Well, I want to play the credit game with you after
Okay, sure.
this. Yeah. But the billing game, rather.
Billing game.
But there's the moment when you are first introduced to Alfred and they do a loving close-up. The camera pushes in as
Right, Alfred, by the
wings
way,
walk
right.
past
He's
and
like
it lands
a
on
Cockney,
Alfred.
a Cockney,
Right.
lovely Cockney
And now it's Michael
gentleman.
Caine and the score swells and the movie's just going like, we know we got we got a powerhouse here. We got Michael
Bruce.
Caine playing Alfred. This movie's going the next fucking level.
I mean, we've all seen The Trip, right?
Yeah.
Come on, he's the best in these
But
movies.
Alfred, like, this is the first time that Alfred in a movie is like a real fucking character.
Yes, although Batman and Robin he's the linchpin of Batman and Robin's plot.
Right. He's not sick, he's dying.
He has McGregor's disease or whatever it's called.
Yeah, Ewan McGregor infects him.
He has sex with Ewan McGregor and he gets the deadly McGregor virus.
I know.
So yeah, we've got that, and then we have grown-up Bruce.
Comes back
Not
home from
grown-up, sorry,
college.
like college Bruce.
He's snotty. Wayne Manor is all covered in braids.
His hair's all like down and flat.
They do a really good job.
They
with
do.
that.
They make him look like a
His
little
clothes
shithead.
don't fit him really well. He meets up again with Katie Holmes.
No, but
who's
yeah,
now-
he sees
right.
Alfred and he's like, Wayne Manor sucks, and Alfred's like, well, I'm watching out for it.
Yeah.
He meets up with Katie Holmes, who's like, is she already an assistant DA or?
No, I think she's still living there because she's supposed to. I think she's in college. Whatever. They're both in college.
But like that's
she's still
when
in Gotham.
They
though.
go to the Joe Chill. Is that happening then, or
Correct.
is that
correct? And
Yes.
Bruce Wayne's plan is I'm going to shoot Joe Chill
right?
at the
The
hearing.
murder of his parents. So Bruce Wayne has this right.
He's
this
only
very
come back
simple-
home for the hearing. He's
I know.
up for fucking release.
No, he's being released because he's testifying against Carmine Falcone, the head of the mob.
Snitching.
And so Bruce goes, and yes, his plan is I will shoot this man because that's Bruce's conception right now of
Yeah.
fighting crime is like, what if I kill the guy who shot my parents? Won't that make me feel better?
Yeah.
And instead, the mob shoots Joe Chill.
Before he even gets the chance,
front of
Bruce is
his
there
eyes.
with the
I
gun. He's
know,
ready
I
to
know.
do it.
And then he tells Katie Holmes he was going to do it, and she gives him a slap in the face.
And is this the point where she gives him a tour of the Narrows?
Yeah.
Because I love the Narrows.
The Narrows. So it's like the conception of Gotham is like Chicago, but with Crime Island in the middle of it.
Which is amazing. And it's like this old, weird shanty town.
Right.
That's just all brown and poop colored and gross.
Yeah. And Prince Joffrey lives there.
Yes.
Baby Joff. And like the monorail goes through there, but I guess it's like it's bad.
Express stops. It goes through very
Yeah,
quickly.
right.
It's looking over its shoulder a lot as it's steering through. And Katie Holmes is like, this is real Gotham. I'm committing my life
Right.
to
Katie
fighting
Holmes is
for
like,
this
I
kind
want
of
to
shit.
rebuild this through the law, and
Right.
she becomes
This was
an
your
88.
father's idea and it's
Rachel
crumbled.
Dawes, which I believe it was just an invented character for these movies, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, there's not like a Rachel Dawes in the
I
comics.
don't think so.
They might have put one in later.
He reveals the thing about the gun. She slaps him in
She's
the face.
mad at him.
She drops him off. She goes, look, this is where all the fat cats hang out. And he goes into the bar and it's Falcone. It's the judge. It's these gross cops. It's everybody.
Yes.
And he
So-
tries to face Falcone, and Falcone's like, you're some rich kid, you're the son of Bruce Wayne, you'd have to go 100,000 miles to find someone who doesn't know your face. Which gives him the idea, you got to go to the Himalayas.
No, but we got to talk about this scene. Because
What?
I knew that Tom Wilkinson had been cast to play Carmine Falcone.
Isn't even above the title. It's not
He's
in that
not.
credit
No,
block.
he's not. Because it's not like a huge role.
But he's an
probably
Academy
got like
Award
5.
nominee.
He is for
Yeah.
a great performance in The Bedroom, and later nominated again for Michael Clayton.
Right.
And I knew the comics well enough, and I loved The Long Halloween, which Carmine Falcone's a big
It's
part
the
of.
principal kind of antagonist, really.
And I know that Carmine Falcone is supposed to be a, Don Corleone-esque.
Yes.
And so I remember even in 2005 being like, Tom Wilkinson,
Why
that
didn't
is
they cast
bizarre.
like Gandolfini or
Yeah, exactly.
Danny Aiello or some very obvious,
And that scene where he sits down in the bar and Falcone's basically like, you're a snotty rich kid, points the gun at him
Yeah.
and says
You
like,
don't know. You're always afraid of what you
he's
don't understand.
great.
Amazing.
He's fantastic in this movie.
So good.
I love every scene of his. I love that scene. I love the I'm Batman scene. And I love the scene where Scarecrow fucks with him where he's like, Doc, I can't take it. I'm going
blah,
crazy.
blah, blah.
He's such an underrated actor.
I agree.
Love you, Tom.
I was going to say he should have won for Michael Clayton, but that was one of the fiercest best supporting actor categories in a long time.
Who won that year?
Bardem.
I mean,
You also have Hal
an unbeatable
Holbrook.
performance.
Yeah.
Holbrook's great. But I mean, he's got those baguettes.
He's got those baguettes. That's
And,
the baguettiest performance of all time.
I know, but he had his baguettes here.
Yeah.
No, he had some ciabatta.
Ciabatta.
No, all right. So after this rude awakening to Gotham's crime and the complexity of fighting a criminal enterprise,
He gives his coat to a homeless man.
he gives his coat to
all
a
his
homeless
money.
man played by I can't say his name, but he's Rade
Rod Sherbega.
Sherbega, the
He's
Serbian
the main villain
actor.
in Taken 2.
Love him. Is he Serbian? I want to get that right.
I think so.
He's a Croatian actor.
Okay,
I'm
never
sorry.
mind.
I'm sorry.
And then he boards a boat.
Boards the boat,
And
goes
now
off
the
to
two
a crime
timelines are kind of converging.
continent.
There's one moment I do want to spotlight that we move past, which is after Tom and Martha Wayne are shot, and Thomas Wayne's trying to just crisis management the situation, but it gets out of hand. And in panic, Joe Chill shoots them.
Sure, we yeah.
Right. Then he goes to the police station, and Gary Oldman is the kindly cop.
Who's there? Sergeant. What the fuck's
Jim
his
Gordon.
name? Jim Gordon. Jesus.
And he's the one guy who's kind of dealing with this kid in a human level. And there's a moment I love where the chief of police, I guess,
The
comes in.
commissioner.
Right, the
Who's
commissioner.
played by Colin McFarlane, who is I think he's an English actor who I mostly know from sitcoms and stuff.
Oh, really?
And he usually talks like this.
Yeah.
And it's really funny because obviously he's cast just because they were shooting in England,
Yeah,
right?
right.
I don't know if Nolan knew him or anything.
Yeah.
But it's just he's odd in these. He's in The Dark Knight as well.
Yeah, he's weird.
He's got that really forced, odd American accent.
Yeah.
But he's there and he's like, we got him.
Right. That's the moment I love is he goes,
Right.
son, we got good news for you. And Bruce Wayne looks up and then he goes, we got him. We found the guy. And it's a great moment of it's a small little thing, but that if you're a kid and your parents have just been murdered and someone walks in and says, we got good news for you,
Sure.
you're expecting they're going to say,
We
your
found
parents
the
aren't
Lazarus
dead.
pit.
Right. But instead it's like, we caught the guy.
Yeah,
and it's
what
like,
does
that's
he
not
fucking
fucking
care?
mean
Right.
anything. Right. And it's this whole journey of the movie of him trying to figure out what is the kind of revenge that is satisfying,
Right.
It's not getting revenge. It's preventing these things from happening in the first place.
Yes.
Okay, so now the two timelines have converged.
He comes back. Alfred picks him up in the private jet.
Makes a bunch of great jokes.
Makes some great jokes about you can have the roles if you want.
Right, because he
you're
had declared
legally
Bruce dead. Right.
No. Rutger Hauer declared him
Oh,
dead.
yes.
Rutger Hauer, the first of so many reclamation projects for Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
You've got Berenger, Eric Roberts. I think we
Matthew
talked about
Modine.
this. Matthew Modine. Who else? God, there's an obvious one that I'm forgetting.
Inception, not Inception,
Inception
rather.
has Berenger.
Right. I was going to say, Interstellar doesn't really have one. It's got a couple partial, John Lithgow isn't quite a redemption guy.
No.
Who are you going to? Oh, Topher Grace?
Yes, but Wes Bentley.
Correct. Correct.
Let's see.
It's just weird because usually his
He's young,
redemption
right.
projects are guys who peaked in the 80s.
I know, yeah, for sure. But this is definitely one of his 80s redemption projects.
Yeah.
Is Rutger Hauer is William Earl, the new CEO of Wayne Enterprises.
And he's always said that Blade Runner was his favorite movie of all time, and that's his kind of Blade Runner tip of the hat. William Earl, who sucks.
He's bad. He's a shitty CEO.
Right.
You know who should be CEO? Lucius Fox.
Okay, this guy
Played
rules.
by Morgan Freeman.
So Bruce Wayne shows up.
At Wayne Enterprises.
He's
and
like,
just
I'm back, baby.
And William Earl's like, nice to see you. We're going public. So I guess that'll make you even richer than before.
Yeah.
But we're kind of just doing our thing here. Nice to see you.
And he's like, what about applied sciences?
He's like, Lucius? Okay. He's down in the basement where no one sees what he's up to.
Right.
And immediately Lucius Fox is like, I don't know. I got like this bat suit. I got a Batmobile.
I have
got
cloth
a bunch
wings.
I bought a bunch of shit. I sort of been like, we were going to make all these Batmen.
But this is just like how Tony this movie is. It's like they could have cast fucking anyone to deliver that shit. But he was like, no, why not hire one of the best actors alive to explain the technology?
Coming off an Oscar win. Or I mean, the year before he wins his Oscar for $1 Million Baby. I mean, maybe he had already,
Yeah. It's like you got Morgan Freeman batting cleanup in this movie.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
He's great, isn't he?
He's great. He rules in this.
He's great. I mean,
Lucius Fox is the best fucking guy.
That's the thing. He has to deliver these lines where he's like, oh, what, this old cloth? Well, you put an electric current through it, it turns into, and it's like if someone does that wrong, you're like, the fuck, electric cloth? What the fuck are you talking about? That's not a thing.
This is a movie full of, a cast full of actors who have such supreme control over tone.
Sure.
And know exactly where to pitch stuff.
Yep. Wilkinson, Cillian Murphy, Oldman,
Right, because they're all going a little big, but still being sort of grounded, behavioral, with a little bit of tongue in cheek. Just a little bit of tongue in that cheek. David, for the listener at home, has put a little bit of tongue in his cheek.
A little saucy tongue.
Okay, so now everything's converged. We're in the present day. And Bruce Wayne, has explained to Alfred on the plane, I got to become something bigger. I got to become a symbol. I got to strike fear into the hearts of everything that's wrong in Gotham.
In Gotham.
Bartman.
So he becomes the Bartman.
Yeah.
No, so like with Lucius, he starts. And another thing he does is he goes into the caves below Wayne Manor.
He confronts his own fear.
Finds a bunch of bats.
See, this is
and a waterfall.
But this is my thing.
Oh, here comes Ben. He's roaring in the Bedmobile.
Yeah. All right. So he's afraid of bats.
Right.
It's this representation of his fear that he wants to instill in his enemies.
Right, and it's of the moment his parents died, right?
Right, there's a lot of symbolism there, but I had this thought, technically afraid of the opera?
Look, Ben's not wrong.
That's the scariest thing to him.
He's afraid of the opera.
He was at a performance of Don Giovanni.
Yeah.
A guy had something that looked like bat ears.
No, it's the people are tumbling down in black.
No, but also there's that great moment
right.
where the silhouette of the guy, the horns on his head.
But listen, you can't call him Opera Man. That's not.
What if you
Adam Sandler already had the copyright?
Phantom of the Opera.
Adam Sandler already had the copyright.
You're right.
Okay. I was just going to say, though, there's potential for maybe a villain called Opera Man.
Okay. Would he be wet?
Would it be Sandler?
Would he be big?
Yes.
I mean, what was your Batman character?
Batman murderer.
Remember during the Star Wars days, you had like the Jedi that was like a man bat.
Yeah, Bat Pecky.
Bat Pecky, right? That was it. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. He's a Batman.
Yeah, I would love to see an Opera Man.
Well, let's be clear. I mean, the opera killed Bruce Wayne's parents.
It did. It's the damn opera.
Yeah.
Because usually it's Zorro. Like, that's the comic book thing, was he was seeing Zorro at the theater.
And then in fucking Batman vs. Superman, it's Empire Strikes Back.
No,
Or it's Excalibur.
It's like Excalibur or Sorcerer.
They said it in the 80s. Movie. I think it's Excalibur. The Borman picture, I think.
I believe it's Excalibur.
Yeah, you're right.
But yeah, anyway, because it's the 80s now or whatever, Times have changed.
Yeah, but now it becomes the opera.
It's the opera. It'd be great if he put on like a, Harlequin mask and he sort of like flounced around as Opera Man, but
once again, they wanted to, but Sandler had the copyright.
He had a candelabra.
He forced crime.
He plays the music of the night.
That's the joke I was trying to make.
He comes in with like on a boat.
I was going to say
gondola.
He forces crime to listen to the music of the night.
Wouldn't it be great if he like rode around on a gondola?
Yeah,
that'd be great. A bat gondola.
They do
or
both,
a chandelier.
They do both live in caves and like catacombs.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's not. It's a distant cousin. Gerard Butler could have played Batman. There's a world where Gerard Butler is up for Batman.
100%.
Like if it happens at the right time.
If it happens 2 years later, yeah.
Oh boy, I'm excited.
There was a rumor that Warner Brothers wanted Gerard for the Snyderverse too, which makes sense. Or that Snyder wanted Gerard for the Warner Brothers verse.
It does make sense. I think it does. But anyway, so he starts working on this Batman.
And I like all these
character.
pieces. Okay, well, how am I going to be able to listen to you? We need to design fucking antenna in the ears.
Sure.
The gauntlets. We'll buy 10,000 of this piece and then 20,000 of this piece and put it together.
Right, yeah.
I like all this shoe leather.
I do too.
I get really jazzed watching this
But
part
then
of
you
the
have
movie.
the most important moment where he's carving a batarang, right?
Yeah.
And Bruce, Alfred's like,
What the fuck is going on here?
Master?
Yeah.
And he's like, bats frighten me.
Okay, so we're at like the 50-minute mark, and you're like, Batman's still really taking his time to get
Yeah,
him.
I mean, again, I kept checking the time while I was watching. It's like, still no Batman.
And he puts the suit on, but it's not finished yet. Doesn't have a symbol. Ski mask instead of the gauntlet mask. The first night
because he
out,
has his first thing where he's kind of crashing around the Narrows, and he's like kind of crappy
and
at
he's
it.
got this kind of harness on, and he tries to question people, talks to Jim Gordon, establishes that bond.
Yeah.
But then he tries to jump off a building and hits a bunch of fire escapes.
Yeah, I think, So his idea is like, okay, if we, there's a corrupt judge.
Yeah.
If we can get the judge on our side.
We can actually force these
and we
people.
can get a DA, Rachel Dawes.
Right. We need one
Then
honest cop, Jim Gordon.
Get Jim Gordon the cop, and then we can prosecute Carmine Falcone, who is bringing in some sort of substance in his drug deals, which are being helped along by Dr. Henry Crane, who is it Henry?
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Jonathan Crane, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Jonathan Crane. Played by Cillian Murphy, who's like a psychologist.
Was also someone who came very close to playing Batman in this.
Yes, he auditioned. And
Nolan said he was like maybe 2 or 3.
Nolan loves Cillian Murphy. He keeps putting him in his stuff.
This
and
is
of
when he
course,
discovered him.
And he's in all 3 of the Batman movies, which I've always appreciated.
Yeah.
But he's just a little weirder looking than Bale.
Yeah.
And so Nolan's like, how about Scarecrow?
My mom's whole theory on Cillian Murphy is that he's too pretty to actually work as a leading man.
He's quite pretty. He's got that like sort of gaunt prettiness with the high cheekbones.
Right, and he kind of only works if you make him creepy or haunted.
Right.
Because of that.
So that's that.
Yeah, so
and
now
then
all
there's
the pieces
a
are
drug
in
deal
place.
going down.
And now the costume is finished. He
In the
goes to
Narrows or
Lucius
whatever.
Fox. He says, I need something to make me fly.
Yeah, at first Lucius is like, sure, I'll make it. And then Lucius
Because he
is
keeps
like,
on
look,
going, I'm going
I know you're
spelunking,
doing
I'm going
something.
space driving.
Right,
and he goes, just don't think I'm a fool, Mr. Wayne.
Right. And so he makes his bat costume.
And now it's awesome.
Sure, he looks great. It's a nice costume, right?
It's great. And I love that it's still a little goofy and unwieldy. I love that he still can't totally move properly in it.
Yeah.
Because like Dark Knight, they make this segmented thing. They make it a lot more practical in terms of actually
But I like
having
that
an actor move. I like in this.
But in The Dark Knight, they literally have him redesign it on screen.
Yeah.
Right.
I just like in this that it's a little unwieldy.
But, there was this whole obsessive thing in the fan base of, like, the costume can't have nipples. Like, there was, like, this, like, pushback to Schumacher's idea of, like, Batman as, like, a Greek statue.
Yes.
With this sort of, like, ridiculous molded plastic.
Right. And in this, his suit's very tactical looking. And then he's modified it with bats.
So cool. I love it. I'm a nerd who loves realism.
Twisted. So, at the hour mark, he goes to the docks. These cops are coming around. It's set up like a horror movie sequence. I mean, it's like
great.
something weird's going on. I'm sitting there pooling blood in my hands, and I'm waiting. And then suddenly guys start disappearing. They're being pulled up into the sky.
And then you have that great shot where the guy's like, where are you? And he just backs into Batman, who's like hanging upside down. And he's like, here. Yeah, it's great. Love that.
And the guy runs away screaming, and it's annoying because he was trying to initiate like a Tobey Maguire, Kirsten Dunst kiss.
He was.
That's why Batman was upside down.
Here I am.
Hey, another thing that I feel like doesn't
Kiss
get
me.
I feel like something that
Kiss at
doesn't
me.
get talked about enough is Batman's good with ropes.
Very good with ropes.
He's like I don't know
top
how to
5 rope
tie
hero.
knots and make ropes happen.
Why else do you think Armie Hammer was considered to play Batman?
Okay.
I'm just going to let that drop.
Top rope heroes. Number 1, Slipknot from Suicide Squad.
Loves his ropes.
Number 2, Armie Hammer.
Yes. The real hero of ropes. Do you know about this? If not, Google Armie Hammer ropes and have a blast.
Okay.
You'll have a great time.
Anytime my friends say Armie Hammer, I just go ropes.
Hey, you don't even have to Google it. Go on to Army Hammer's Twitter account and look
Go
at his
to his
likes.
faves.
His faves. He doesn't apparently know that they're public or...
Okay, all right. That's
Anyway,
enough about Armie
good
Hammer,
man.
who was literally going to play Batman in George Miller's Justice League movie.
Justice League Mortal. Why do all movies have dumb subtitles? Justice League Mortal.
Justice League Forbidden Kingdom. Justice League Dead Men Tell No Tales.
Salazar's
Revenge. Hola, Batman. We're having fun here
This
on
is
Blank
weirdly
Check.
the punchiest episode we've done in a while.
For Batman Begins. Yeah, this is sort of like a Lincoln-esque episode where we're quite punchy, but in a good way.
I hope so. I hope it's a good way. So, Batman has now begun, and he immediately tracks down Rachel Dawes at the subway. She's the above-ground train system. She gets off because some guys are trailing her, and there's Batman standing.
Right, because Falcone's arranged a hit on her.
Right. This is a scene I missed because I was cleaning up blood from my face originally. But he kind of reaches out to her. He's building his base. He's going, look, there's a new kid in town.
Yeah,
his name is Bartman, and crime's going to pay. You with me or against me?
So, and then you've got, come on, the narrow scene. He finally, 1 hour and 5 minutes into the movie, which is just about halfway in.
Yeah.
Falcone's like, who are you? And he grabs him out of the sunroof and goes, I'm Batman.
Right, and then he turns, and Rod Shebega is still there at the same spot he's been for 10 years, and he goes, nice coat.
Nice coat.
And then the Kitty Home scene happens.
Right, that's
he flies
after,
away,
right,
the
because
hero
now we have
theme
seen
swells.
him in suit.
He's begun.
He has begun. There's the shot, Nolan does the shot of him standing on top of the skyscraper.
Iconic.
The helicopter shot, very nice shot.
Yeah.
Which I think he tops in The Dark Knight with a shot of him in the wreckage. That great shot of him post explosion where he's standing in the wreckage is a great shot. But anyway, nice hero shots.
Mm-hmm.
I think he must have been drawing a little inspiration from the 90s animated movies and series, right? Like,
I think so.
There's just a little of that vibe.
There's that iconography.
And back in the day, that was the hacky thing you would say about Batman was like, but the real one is Mask of the Phantasm.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a real Batman fan because I think that's the closest to real Batman.
That movie does rule.
It's a great movie. It just became so hacky to be
Correct.
like, insert animated thing here is the closest to the comic
Agreed.
books.
And also, it's tough to talk about. Like, it's kind of stupid to compare Mask of Phantasm because Mask of Phantasm is the one Batman movie that doesn't have to worry with being a self-contained narrative in any sense.
Yeah.
Like, it's a continuation of the animated series, so it doesn't have to do any world building.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to cross these things off the checklist. You know, it's just like, here's a cinematic episode.
Agreed.
It's a great movie, but it's like, it doesn't work without the series.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Anyway.
So Batman's on the prowl.
Yeah. So then there's like 15 minutes of Batman just like going to bars, hanging out, being like, hey, everybody, I'm Batman. Just want you to know.
Yeah, he goes to some society event.
He's on the prowl. But he comes home and now like Alfred starts working on the other angle. He's like, look, you got to build up a kind of public reputation. I mean, it's going to be weird. Right. Bruce Wayne's back. You're in the news because people thought you were dead. Yeah. You're just going out and base jumping all the time.
Right, and you have all these
costume.
like mysterious injuries.
And I love this. And he's like, you got to pretend you're a billionaire playboy.
Yeah, he's like, you're supposed to buy things you don't own and,
Stop pretending to have a little fun.
Right.
Well, you had a little fun with actually.
What happened? Did someone punch him in the mouth? Was that the work of the Joker?
Please, Richard C. Joker. We use full names on this show.
Oh boy.
So now he goes out and he's got 3 models under each arm and he's pulling up in a cool car and he's at a hotel and the woman from Following is one of the women going like, this Batman showing up fighting criminals.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Right. He's definitely already introducing, which will become a little more of a thing, I guess, in The Dark Knight, that idea of like, some people are like, well, I think vigilanteism is wrong. And other people are like, but he's saving the city of Gotham.
Right. And Christian Bale goes, I mean, clearly the guy's deranged.
The guy's got issues. I'm Bruce Wayne.
This is where I think Bale's performance becomes great because now he's playing like 4 different characters.
I think he does a great job being Bruce Wayne, especially in this one as like an aloof idiot playboy.
I've always argued that he's the best Bruce Wayne we've ever had.
I mean, I don't disagree with you, but I also think that's because none of the other movies put any effort into Bruce Wayne.
Correct.
Even the Burton Keaton ones.
Yes.
Burton's take is like, This guy just wants to put on that suit and run
Yeah,
around
he
again.
hates being Bruce Wayne.
Val
Yeah.
Kilmer is fine, he's just kind of
Gives a
asleep,
shit.
and then Clooney is really just playing it like
Clooney.
he's Clooney, like he's like a movie star,
Right.
And he's dating Elle McPherson.
There's no characterization.
And the
there,
subplot in Batman and Robin is like, will he ask Elle McPherson to settle down with him?
Yeah.
Like, because like the idea of that movie is almost like it's time for Batman to start a family.
Right,
You
which
know,
is
like,
what Lego Batman does properly.
Well, Lego Batman's got a great Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, the best.
Oh, you're saying it beats Bale?
No. I think Lego Batman has a better Batman.
Would you say that Will Arnett is the third best Batman? Or is Kevin Conroy ahead of him?
Yeah, I mean Keaton's number one, right?
No, I prefer Bale. I know Keaton's your guy, though.
Keaton's my guy.
Yeah.
I think Keaton's a better Batman. I think
But I
Bale's a
love
better Bruce
Keaton.
Wayne. I think Keaton worked that suit better than anyone.
They're both great. I mean, we'll talk about it in The Dark Knight.
Yeah, I think Will Arnett's top three, though. I just can't settle on where in the three he is.
Anyway, he's fighting crime.
He's fighting crime. He's going out. He's
Working
taking
in the
names.
Narrows.
People are starting to talk about him. There's that great little moment. Ben was just punching the air. He mimed punching little punches.
Yeah, because, the beef on Nolan is he's a bad action director, especially backhand. People used to say that a lot.
Hand-to-hand combat in this movie is sweaty.
It's sweaty, but he mostly just doesn't do a lot of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he's good with vehicles. He's good in action sequences when it's a large swath of space. That's why the hallway sequence works in Insomnia, because it's about the relation between...
You mean Inception. But it would be cool if in Insomnia, Al Pacino was in a revolving hallway.
He's got too many eye movies. That's my take.
I organized my Blu-rays alphabetically.
Oh, boy.
Like a big old nerd.
And he just owns the eyes. He runs.
Insomnia, Interstellar, Inception.
It's 3 ins.
It's 3 ins.
He's got to fucking cut it out.
At least Dunkirk, you got a nice D.
You should have called it In Dunkirk. Have you heard that Dunkirk's an hour 40?
Yeah, baby.
That's amazing.
Vroom, vroom.
Because he's just been getting longer and longer, and now he's tightening that belt. I like it. I like it. David is putting his hands together as he whistles, as if he is bringing it in.
Yep, I'm bringing it in.
Okay, so
His shortest movie, shorter than Memento.
Yeah, which is cool.
Yep.
Following.
Following is his shortest movie.
Right.
But
Following is the length of
69 minutes long.
Following's a 2-reeler.
It is.
Yeah, it's the length of a couple Looney Tunes cartoons. So now, what the fuck are we even talking about? He's going out. He's making a name for himself. He's playboying it up. He runs into Rachel. He's embarrassed. And he's like, Rachel, this isn't who I am. This is an act. She's like, it's not the things we say. It's the things we do.
Yeah.
The masks. You're wearing these masks.
Mm-hmm.
And now, he goes out. He tries to get to the bottom of this shipment of this contraband that's being delivered down the docks.
Yep.
Rachel Dawes' boyfriend also was trying to figure this out.
Yeah, fuck that guy. He gets moited.
This guy's a drip.
He gets moited.
It's a fucking Baxter if I've ever seen one.
But then you have the scene where Batman encounters the Scarecrow by mistake almost, and the Scarecrow gives him some fear gas.
Right, and he flips the fuck out.
Yeah, man. It's good.
It's good, and then he wakes up 3 days later.
You got those dream sequences, fear sequences. This is the thing. It's funny that after all these failed projects about like hallucinations he does them, and he does them well.
He does them really well.
Like the Batman fear sequences are great. The Scarecrow one where you see Scarecrow see scary Batman, and Batman looks like this like golem, and he's like oozing black pus. Great.
Well, my single favorite image in this entire movie is when they've started infecting all the citizens of the Narrows, and they look above, and Batman's flying over them,
and he's got
his
the red
mouth
eyes,
is like on fire.
Yeah, and he's like,
yeah,
it's great.
It's great. It's great.
Yeah, because this movie was almost called Batman: Intimidation.
Intimidation game.
Game, right? That's right. Because it's about fear, and then you have that great scene right in the same time as all this shit, where he catches Flass, Detective Flass or Sergeant Flass, played by Mark Boone Jr. from Memento.
A dude who scrubs his face with salami every night. The greasiest man in the world.
Yeah, this guy sleeps in a pizza pie.
I'm just picturing Mark Boone Jr.
He uses a grandma pie as a blanket.
He's a fine actor.
He's got two calzones as pillows.
I'm sure he's a great man.
No, he's great. I love
him coming home after a long day on set. He's a total pro. He knows his lines. He hits his marks, and he just wants to sleep well, get his full 8 hours before he has to be on set 6 a.m. the next morning. And he walks into his bedroom, and it's just the entire wall to wall is a grandma pie. He lies on top of it and then folds part of it on top of his body. He fluffs up his calzones.
Swear to God.
He scrubs the salami on
This
his
guy
cheeks.
just like sweats vegetable oil. He's so good. He's got like two scenes. The one where he like gets his money and then he's like to Gordon, he's like, "Hey Gordon, you know,
and he's like eating 3 things while he's saying it.
And then he's talking to the street vendor guy, and he's like, the guy he's taking money from. The guy's like, "Hey, I got kids to feed." He's like, "What? They don't like falafel?" You know,
Like this fucking guy. And then Batman, boom, grabs him by the ankles with some rope. Ben's excited.
swear to me.
Yeah. And he's like, fuck, shit,
Who are
piss,
they working for?
cock.
Who are they working
Will
for?
I get in trouble if I say the C word? What's on the table? What's off the table?
like a cop?
Oh, that C word.
Where Batman is scary.
Very scary.
And again, like we've already said it, but you know, Batman hadn't been scary for a while.
No,
it was cool for him to be scary. Now I think
too
again,
scary.
Right. It's been tipped too far in one direction, and that's what happens with Hollywood. Trends get taken to their logical extreme, and then they have to pull back.
Yeah. This is why we can't have nice things.
The idea that Zack Snyder saw this movie and was like, darker though, is the whole problem, right?
Yeah, especially literally.
Yeah. Turn down the brightness.
Yeah.
So, what happens in the plot of this movie?
I'm trying to remember.
It's mostly just like he's uncovering this thing, which is that Scarecrow, working for Ra's al Ghul, is bringing the fear toxin, like
blue
weaponized.
flowers.
But why a burlap sack?
Does he put it on?
But he has that
get
line
that.
where he says, like, it's kind of silly.
I know
but
it looks
scares the
silly, but
patient.
it's scary. I mean, that seems great when he's introducing himself as a villain.
But Batman, Batman's got vision. He's thinking about what he represents. Scarecrow's kind of a hack.
Yeah.
He's like, look, I got this toxin. I don't know. What do I got? Someone hand me a sack or something.
Right.
But I love his sack face is so unsettling in this movie.
What if it was a crow face?
Then he'd be the Crow. Ben, come on. It's a simple format.
I like his sack face.
I like it a lot.
Yeah. And so the Scarecrow's bringing this in.
Yeah.
The fear toxin.
Yeah.
And he's going to put it into the water supply.
Right.
He reveals this to Rachel Dawes before he toxins her.
My favorite joke in the movie is when Bruce Wayne wakes up out of his birthday coma and he goes, what happened? He goes, well, you go around, you go to the
party,
club.
someone's passing around their
Weaponized
weaponized hallucinogens.
hallucinogen.
It's a funny line. But I like that the fact that he's in league with Ra's al Ghul is revealed when Batman has used the toxin on him.
Yes.
And he's like, who are you working for? And he's like, Ra's al Ghul. And he's like, Ra's al Ghul is dead. And that's what short circuits the Scarecrow's brain. It's like, 1, this guy's heard of Ra's al Ghul. 2, he thinks he killed him.
Yeah.
Like, I am in over my head.
And this is, in this movie's balancing act, it's dance with the pulpier aspects of the material. Their sort of metaphorical way of representing the idea of Ra's al Ghul being this immortal, being this, Lazarus pit guy who can resurrect himself. You're watching the movie and going like, is Ken Watanabe going to come back? And it's
Sure.
like, no, it's Ra's al Ghul's more of an idea.
Come on.
Yeah.
A legend, Mr. Wayne.
A legend, Mr. Wayne.
Who is it? It's Liam Neeson.
Oh, Liam Neeson.
He's back. Here's his plot.
It's his big birthday party. He's just
reveals
trying to have
himself
fun,
at
pretending
Wayne
to
Manor.
have fun.
Right. And Wayne goes up to a bald guy being like, it's Watanabe. But then it turns around and it's just a random Asian
Well,
guy.
this woman goes, oh, I've just been speaking to the most interesting
Mr.
man.
Ra's al Ghul?
Which is a joke on the fact that no one knows how to pronounce Ra's al Ghul
Yes.
in the comics
Or in the movies.
or in life
Yes.
within the headquarters of DC Comics.
Right.
And he thinks it's another fat bald guy. And then Liam Neeson's there and he burns London to the ground. And he talks about how the League of Shadows' whole thing is when society has reached a tipping point, they reset. Much like Batman and Robin, it was time to reboot the Batman franchise. He thinks Gotham needs a dark and gritty reboot in which everyone dies.
This is my only problem with Batman Begins. It kind of ties into my Neeson objection, which is just, this is the one thing where I'm like, I just don't totally buy their plan.
I buy it.
Because he's like, we've done it lots of times. Ancient Rome, London in the 17th century.
Pompeii,
And
we built the volcanoes.
No other examples. It's like, what, have you been burning down cities recently? Is that something you still do? And like, what is supposed to happen after Gotham is burned to the ground within America? Like,
right.
what's your, like, what is this?
Yeah.
And also, their plan to burn Gotham to the ground is to make everyone afraid, and then they'll all kill each other? Is that the idea?
He wants them to destroy it themselves.
Okay.
Sometimes man is the deadliest volcano of all.
It's a flawed plan.
I like it. Because they're dumb bad guys.
Sure. It's fine. I'm offering a half-hearted objection.
Sure.
It's fine.
So yeah, they realize...
I just think the turn is a little more forced than like Neeson Part 1. Neeson Part 2, I'm just kind of like, all right.
They realize they've worked the blue flower into the water supply of the city. They got this sort of like a machine that evaporates.
Right. There's this subplot where like a Wayne invention that like vaporizes.
It got
water
stolen in shipment. And
is going to be part of
whatever.
this.
Who
It's
cares?
fine. It's
it
legwork.
works. Whatever.
He's doing the
Get it
legwork. Yeah. And the plot is get the thing onto the train. You drive the train. It vaporizes all the water. Everyone's going to breathe in this toxins.
It's in the air.
Go
They'll all
crazy.
kill each other.
Yeah.
But they hit the Narrows first.
But who has to stop them?
Oh,
A legend, Mr.
I
Way.
think Earl.
Who's Earl?
My name is Earl.
What?
I don't know. David, I need food. And I need
Yeah, I'm
sleep.
hungry too.
Okay.
Yeah, the ending's good.
The ending's good. I mean,
well, you should mention the Batmobile.
oh yeah,
Does it come in black?
right. And it's great. I mean, I remember thinking it looked dumb when they revealed it, and
Sure,
then you see it
the
action. This
tumbler.
is the best action sequence in the movie. He saves Rachel, who's been dosed.
Yeah, and he drives. That's when the Hans Zimmer, James Newton Howard theme is really pumping.
Dun, 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 dun.
And
He's,
right,
he's
and
flying on rooftops.
he's dealing with the cops, and the cops are like, "It's a tank!" Like
Yeah.
they're afraid of it, and that's all good. And I think it's a part of Nolan's whole idea with all his action sequences, which is they should be tactile and they
Yes.
should be real, and these devices should work like they built these.
But they got to go big.
Cars,
The second Nolan's focusing on two people in close quarters, it gets fucked.
Yeah, he's just obviously not as interested in it.
No.
Like it's just a
It feels
little more
perfunctory.
half-hearted,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But so all the bat stuff, and then he works with Gordon Gordon gets to drive the Batmobile.
Yeah.
He says, "I got to get me one of these," in one of the cornier lines.
Yeah, it's hard to recapping the movie in this way doesn't do Gordon any justice. But I just
he's just peppered in.
he's this pillar of moral integrity. He's
I agree.
just
He's got-
one good man left in the city.
Right, but it's not in like a sort of over the top way where he's
It's not
angelic.
saintly. It's not sanctimonious.
There's that. It's good that there's that scene where Flass is like, "We're worried about you," and he's like, "I'm not a rat. I'm a cop.
He's like, "Look,
I'm not going to rat on you.
I'm not going to
guys."
get a taste, but
right.
let me
do
just
whatever
leave
the
me
fuck
alone.
you want.
Right, I'm just trying to be
I
a
get
good
that
cop.
I am like an outlier here.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And then he fights Descartes on the train and
This was the year
kind of quasi kills him by
2004. You got Incredibles and Spider-Man 2 both do big elevated
They did.
train sequences, and then this is 2005, the following year, and then after that they hung up that jersey. Elevated train in the middle of a superhero movie
trying to think if there's any
gets
other
lifted to the
example.
rafters.
Yeah.
There were 3 in
No, I
like
know what you're
18
saying.
months.
Bon Voyage. Remember
Yeah.
him?
Great guy.
Monsieur Incroyable.
Why doesn't that guy work anymore? He's a good actor.
Good actor.
Bon Voyage.
I believe Brad Bird actually did the voice, but I can't
Really?
remember. I think so.
You want my guess? I'm going to be a real Pixar dick here. I think it was Teddy Newton. I think it was Pixar story artist Teddy Newton.
We're both wrong. It was some guy called Dominique Lewis.
Okay, well then fuck me.
Yep. Anyway.
Batman fights him on the train. He goes, "You won't kill somebody," and he goes, "No, but I don't have to save you." And he flies away, and then he kisses Rachel. There's the scene I really like.
Lots of nice tying up.
And then there's the early moment that's nice when Batman ties the thug to the spotlight, so they kind of get the idea.
Not the
for
thug.
bat
It's
signal.
Falcone.
Oh, it's Falcone himself
Yeah.
with his raggedy jacket now.
That's right.
That looks like a bat swings.
Bat coat. Sorry.
The scene, I think Bale's best scene in the movie is when he realizes Ra's al Ghul's plan. He's got to get everyone out of his mansion immediately,
he,
so he
like-
pretends to do the drunk speech.
Yeah.
And it's like he's playing 4 things at the same time.
He's
It's really good. It's funny. It's a funny speech.
I feel like
we sycophants.
I feel like we nailed all of the major stuff, right?
Yeah, we
Is
just
there
kind of
anything
front loaded.
Yeah, you got Opera Man.
Yeah, we got Opera Man. Swear to me.
We got Tom Wilkinson. We got Rachel Dawes.
We
She's
forgot the
fine.
most important thing. The memo.
Didn't you get the memo?
Earl wants to fold applied sciences into their archives and fire Fox.
Lucius, yes.
But then you get the memo, and at the end of the movie, after Batman saved the day, Earl gets fired Morgan Freeman's now the boss, and he goes, "Didn't you get the memo?"
Yeah, but also Bruce bought the company when it went public.
Right. He bought all the shares.
He has that, again, the repeated line. He loves that shit where he's like, it's a lot of shell corporations or whatever. You wouldn't understand. Very complicated.
They burn his mansion down to the ground. I love the tease at the end where he's like, look, maybe we could do some renovations to the East Wing, which I feel like the other two movies don't pay off. He never gets a proper Batcave again. I like that in this movie he's like in a cave with drips and fucking stalagmites.
Right. It's not like where he goes in and there's like a computer that's like, hello, Mr. Wayne. Like, hi, Batman.
It felt like that's what they were setting up, was he was going to have like a whole huge proper Batcave. And then in Dark Knight, in Batman Begins 2, he is just like in an apartment, and then underneath the apartment he's got like a garage that's kind of minimalist. They never fully rebuild Wayne Manor until Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah, in Dark Knight, Wayne Manor has been burned down, which is what happens in this movie.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Batman. Right. Yeah. Anyway.
Dark Knight's rebuilt. Yeah.
Anyway. Rachel has this final speech with him where she talks about the masks he wears and says, "This is the real mask. Batman is now who you are." That's sort of become him.
Right. She's basically saying like, I'm not going to date you unless you're not Batman anymore.
Right.
It's only really important for Dark Knight because it's sort of part of his motivation.
Which is great because Katie Holmes doesn't get to play any of that ever again. She's fine in this movie.
Yeah, I think she became an unfortunate
Tom Cruise
target.
thing.
But yeah, this was the same summer as War of the Worlds, so it was like, their publicity.
David almost spilled a drink 5 times.
I almost spilled it on myself, and then I almost spilled it on my laptop.
I remember people even making the joke when the Batman Begins poster. They had this real kind of amazing, like, Universal Monsters poster that was
him dissolving into a bunch of bats.
Correct.
Yes.
No, that was Batman holding like Rachel Dawes' body, where he looked kind of monstrous.
Yeah.
People were like, "Oh God, it's weird. Batman looks like Tom Cruise now." Like now that you know Katie Holmes, I remember people making jokes like that.
Well, those people
Dumb
are
jokes.
silly. I do like the scene where he summons all the bats with his bat shoe.
Oh, yeah, I love that.
And then he jumps down the hallway and he gets the little hero shot of him like inflating his cape.
Yeah.
While all the bats like circle around him. It's nice.
Yeah.
A lot of bats in this movie.
Yeah, I think that was the DVD cover. Was him like?
Yeah. He doesn't use the bats as much in the later movies.
No,
this one he's
very
really into
bat-driven.
bats.
Yeah.
Right.
And another thing I love is that like when they and I don't think the sequels totally paid off on this, but the idea that like they opened all the doors at Arkham Asylum, so these are going to be all the future villains, are these Arkham escapees.
Yeah.
But then the final scene, of course, he meets Gordon up on the rooftop after the bat signal's been activated.
Right.
And Gordon gives this great speech summing up the plans for the franchise.
Yeah.
Says, escalation. You wear Kevlar, they buy armor-piercing rounds. It goes through the whole thing. So you go, you walk around wearing a costume, and it's like, okay, here we go. All these Arkham guys are out in the streets. Batman's wearing a crazy costume. They're all going to take personas. Now we got a franchise. And then probably the best sequel tease in history, right?
So smart.
I mean, it's like this and Back to the Future are the two best like sequel lob-ups.
Where he's just like, someone's been robbing some banks. Keeps leaving a calling card.
He's got a taste for the theatrical, like you.
Mm-hmm.
Likes a good laugh.
And I just remember when that line happens, you could feel a chill in the theater.
Like,
because it feels like, okay, Nolan's starting over. The sense is that these things are sacred. They can't redo the same characters they've done before.
or can they?
And then when he flips over the card, it was just like fucking spooging all over the place.
And then, of course, that becomes the narrative of the sequel. Is like, who will play Joker? Like, that was like a year-long, like, internet narrative.
A month after the movie came out, they were like, Steve Carell, Steve Buscemi, Michael Keaton. Like, I remember every fucking name in the world was thrown around. Yeah. Adrian Brody, Olivia de Havilland.
I'm hungry.
I am too. Let's go get food. The movie is called Batman Begins. I love it. Batman, I'm going to elevate him to being one of my best movie friends.
Excuse me. There's a little game we have to
I'm
play.
not saying we're done with the episode. I'm saying we're done with talking about the movie.
Not an intimidation game, neither.
Okay, and then I have a game to play with you.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
He's pulling out his phone. Batman Begins opens June 17th, 2005.
Okay.
It opens number 1 at the box office, $48 million. It eventually...
And it was a 5-day weekend, open on Wednesday, so I think I ended up making like 70 by the time that Sunday rolled around.
Maybe you're right. Well, anyway, that's what I'm getting here.
Okay.
You're right. It opened on the 15th, actually.
Thank
yeah.
you.
No, yeah. And it eventually grosses $205 million domestic, $374 worldwide. Just to think, like, a Batman movie doing badly worldwide.
Yeah.
Rather than now, that would be the play would be like, well, we'll make tons of money internationally.
It's crazy. I mean, this movie made 200 in total, and Batman Dark Knight opens to 150 plus.
Yeah.
Like, this movie comes within, close range of outgrossing the entire predecessor in its opening weekend. Okay, so opening weekend, 2005. Fuck, so I'm thinking like May releases from 2005.
Yeah, so it opens number 1. Number 2 is an action picture that had opened the week before that was a box office sensation and a tabloid sensation?
Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
That's right. But I wanted to do the thing where I pivoted.
It was funny. He pivoted the microphone over to Ben and gave him looked at Ben.
Ben was like looking at his phone.
Yeah, Ben was not engaged.
Not interested in me.
Yeah.
Mr. and Mrs. Smith, which has now made 96 mil in 2 weeks, was a big hit. Yeah.
Okay, number 3,
animated movie.
Madagascar.
Correct. Those are the easiest for him to guess.
Yep.
Folks, which has made 146 in a month.
A disturbingly big hit.
Number 4 is a film we've talked about on this podcast.
Oh, by the way, in some previous episode, I talked about how weirdly fragmented the Madagascar franchise is in terms of its separate timelines. And then someone, I think maybe Will Goss, got confirmation from someone who works on the Madagascar TV show that I was correct. Between the film series and
Congrats, you were
the TV
right.
show, there are 3 different timelines. Great, okay.
Now is not the time to brag.
Okay.
No, it's fine. The number 4 is a movie we have discussed on this podcast many times.
Many times.
Plenty of times.
Have we covered it or we just discussed it?
Covered it.
We've covered it.
Yes.
War of the Worlds.
A legend, Mr. Wayne. No, War of the Worlds comes out later.
Fuck.
I think that was a July release.
Yeah. It's not Elizabethtown. It's not a Cameron movie.
In 5 weeks, it has made $348 million.
Whoa, Nelly.
Whoa, Nelly indeed.
Wait. 2005, it's made
$348 million.
So it had to be the highest grossing film in
weeks.
2005.
That's a good question. It was, with 380 total.
Why am I blanking on
The top 5 of 2005 are this movie. Number 2 is Narnia. Number 3 is Goblet of Fire. Number 4 is War of the Worlds. Number 5 is King Kong.
It's a director we've covered.
Yes.
So it's not a Shyamalan.
No.
And it's not... Oh, I'm a fucking dummy.
Dumbass.
It's called Phantom Menace, Revenge of the Sith.
Correct. That was its title.
Yeah.
Yeah.
dummy.
Star Wars Episode 3 has made lots of money.
Yeah.
Star Wars Episode 3 with a budget about $50 million lower than Batman Begins' budget, if you can imagine it.
Wow.
Number 5 is a comedy. It's a remake.
Longest Yard?
Yes.
Okay.
Holy shit.
I want food. Now here's the game I'm going to play with you.
No, excuse me. I'm going to say some of the other titles.
Oh, okay.
Adventures of Shark Boy and Lava Girl in 3D.
Great film.
With
Probably
Taylor
Rodriguez's
Lautner.
best.
Who's
Yeah.
the girl?
I don't think
remember.
she really worked it.
Cinderella Man.
Weird movie.
Ron Howard, very weird movie.
Ron Howard shooting last on Han Solo.
That's right.
Damn it.
Number 8, The Perfect Man. Let's not forget
Oh,
with
the
Hilary Duff and
Heather
Locklear.
I think
right.
Chris Noth plays the titular perfect man.
Believe you're correct.
She pretends to be a guy,
No, who fucking
so her
cares?
mom feels less lonely. That's a
Sisterhood
weird
of the
movie.
Traveling Pants is in there.
Good film, good franchise.
Yeah, I agree. The Honeymooners, the Cedric the Entertainer, Mike Epps take.
Reimagining?
Yeah, not a hit.
A dark, gritty reboot.
You don't remember that one? Crash is hanging around in the top 20. You got Monster in Law. Yeah.
Okay, I want to play billing game with you because I think Nolan's billing is always really interesting, and I want to set this up for future episodes. Can you guess the billing? Who's above the title? This credit block. It's on this one. It is 6 names.
Christian Bale.
Correct.
Is number 1.
Correct.
Michael Caine.
Correct.
Yes. Okay. All right. That was the scariest one. Number 3. Gary Oldman.
No.
Katie Holmes.
No.
Liam Neeson.
Correct.
Right. Sorry. Right. And then Katie.
Yes.
Then Gary.
Yeah, which is weird that Gary's that deep.
Yeah, but Katie was, she was a big play. And then, so wait, have I named 1, 2, 3, 4 of them now?
You have named 5 now.
Oh, so, and Morgan Freeman.
Correct.
Right.
And then if you go down to the credit block underneath,
Yes.
it's Christian Bale above the title, then Michael Caine, Liam Neeson, Katie Holmes, Gary Oldman. Then you add in Cillian Murphy,
then Rucker Hauer.
Tom Wilkinson,
Oh, of course, right. Sorry. Tom
Then
Wilkinson,
Rucker.
Then Rucker Hauer.
then Watanabe,
Then Ken Watt, poor Ken.
And Morgan Freeman.
Morgan Freeman.
No with.
Yeah, well, Kane's your obvious with,
But they give him
but he
second billing.
obviously negotiated a big enough salary or whatever that they put him second bill.
I just want to set that up because I think the billing gets interesting on the next two.
Yes, it does. Love billing.
Love billing.
Love Batman. Yeah, he fights crime.
Yeah.
In the city of Gotham.
Billing begins. Well, everyone, this has been our episode on Barfman Begarts.
Yep.
I hope you liked it. We need to get food right now because our brains are clearly melting.
We gave you a nice 2 hours of batting.
Yeah, you got nothing to complain about. Shut the fuck up.
Batting man.
He is the batting of the men. And tune in next week for our episode on The Prestige.
Le Prestige.
Right, which is like a little blank check. That's like he's coming off a blockbuster and he gets...
This is now Nolan's game is, I make you Batman, you let me make what I want, right?
Yeah.
And so after Batman Begins, solid hit, he makes a little magic movie.
He says, what if Wolverine and Batman were magicians?
After Dark Knight, huge hit, he gets to make his Dream Police movie.
What if DiCaprio was a dream thief?
And then after Dark Knight Rises, it's a huge hit, even though it's bad, he gets to make a space movie. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, hi, everyone. Goodbye. Thank you for listening. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. Big thanks to Ange Fergudo for running our social media accounts.
Yes.
Joe Bowen and Pat Reynolds for doing our artwork. Lane
Yes.
Montgomery for the theme song.
Yes.
Go to our Reddit for some dorky shit that people are arguing over all the time.
Please do.
And as always.
Yes.
And as always.
Swear to me.
Crap! Fuck! Batman! Fuck you!
Started recording, guys. And whenever you want to jump
Love this
in.
movie.
Yeah, I love this movie.
Good movie.
Okay.
It's a good, it's good.
Are you excited for Jurassic World, Forbidden Kingdom?
That's the fucking title.
Jurassic World, Forbidden Kingdom.
Wait, what
For
made it
Jurassic
forbidden?
World 2. Ooh, it's forbidden. You can't go. No.
That new Birth Movies Death Daniel Day-Lewis account, which is really good. I don't know if you've been following that.
I've been following
He
it.
tweeted like, "Hey, I just made your job simpler for you," and took the poster,
Yes,
and it was
it's
Jurassic
crossed out Kingdom.
Yeah.
Sure. I think the only problem with that is like, where do you end? It's like Jurassic Universe.
Yeah, that's where you end
just
it.
keep going.
Yeah.
Jurassic Galaxy.
Yeah. Or you call it Jurassic Land, or you call it Jurassic,
Land is smaller than World and
they
bigger than Park. They should have gone Park, Land, World.
Yeah.
Are there
They fucked up
dinosaurs?
jumping to
No, there aren't dinosaurs in this one. That's the twist. No dinosaurs.
It's just about like urban planning.
Yeah.
Like,
The whole movie is them trying to pick out a new location.
yeah, right.
It's just bureaucracy and like
Yeah, it
plans
stars
and-
Richard Jenkins. He's got to deal with like the zoning board.
Something has been negotiated.
They're like, dinosaurs, I don't know. And he's like, it's fine.
That's fucking funny.
Richard Jenkins. Looking, where's the
All right,
fucking
put that
quote I'm
all
looking-
at the end of the episode.
Yeah, put it at the end. You were recording all that, right?
Yeah.
That was great stuff. That was great stuff. Ben, that was great stuff.
All right, come on.
Okay, where's the thing I'm looking for? Cut out the part where I said it was great stuff.
No, keep it in. Double it.